a prestigious family that mastered poisons and secret sword arts. The Sungchuan Tang family fell apart. Murim's new forces that destroyed about 9 of his sects, Demon Lord Yun Junhyuk's heavenly radiance. If he was refused, and if he liked the woman, he would ask her to marry him. And if she ignored his offer or refused, he would force her. Such oddities of Yun Junhyuk also affected Sungchuan Tang's family, and the poisonous phoenix Tang Jiahai became a target. Facing the Demon Lord's heavenly radiance that came for Tang Jiahai, the Sichuan Tang family fought with all their might and won. But as a result of putting all their efforts, the Sichuan Tang family was on the path to collapse. Because the protagonist's mother had attracted the attention of the Demon Lord's heavenly radiance and destroyed the clan, the insults and fists that had been thrown at her had also reached the boy. Returning home, the guy barely opened the door when his mother attacked him. Enman's mother pounced on him with questions about what was wrong with his face and who did all this. To which the guy replied that he was fine and that he had simply fallen while playing with friends. Enman explained to his mother that she shouldn't worry about him and left. Enman knew it wasn't his mother's fault, but he had no one to share his feelings with. When a boy raises his voice, he only invites retribution, as happened to his father. Even if they left the Tang family, who could protect a defenseless mother and son? Everything could have been different if the boy's father had been alive, but, alas, he has long been dead. Once again, Enman was being bullied by his peers, and suddenly one of the boys said that it was too much and asked to leave him alone, because he had carefully prepared for the game. Since the boys were going to participate in the upcoming competition, Tang Yunren suggested that they try the poison that they would later use. If the needle was inserted incorrectly, the boy could get hurt, so Tan Jonggil suggested that the boy thank him for holding him so tightly. The boys stated that they had no intention of destroying him at all, and once the poison's effect was confirmed, Yenmen would not be given the antidote. The boys didn't keep their word and left Enman. The boy understood that if he just closed his eyes, it would be much easier, but who would protect his mother then? If only he hadn't been born so weak, if only he could have stood up to them all. Enman didn't ask for much. He just wanted to become strong enough to protect himself and his mother. While thinking about how he wanted to live a normal life, he suddenly noticed the sword. It was quite strange, because the guy had never seen it before, but it looked familiar, like it belonged to him. In his previous life, after training with the sword for over 100 years, he learned the formation of the sword, the basics of the way of the sword, and finally obtained the absolute sword. Even after reaching the end of the sword, he could not stop the approaching death. He was filled with regret. If he could only live another life, he would want to live it normally. Enman remembered that in his previous life he was a sword master, and in this life he was Tang Enman. The sword master handed Enman his sword and allowed him to live a normal life now. Enman ran out of the house like a bullet. His worried mother hurried to ask who beat him up like that yesterday. But he asked his mother not to worry, he would definitely come back. The guys who beat up Enman were already waiting for him. They planned to beat the guy up if he showed up, and if he didn't, they would gather everyone and tease him. The boys saw Enman on the horizon and were delighted. Calling him over, they asked why there were no bruises on his body, since yesterday he had been moaning in pain. The boys started to bully Enman again. One of them wanted to raise his hand against him, but Enman knocked him out with one blow. The boys were surprised, because Enman had never studied martial arts. How could this even happen? Enman said that what the boys could do, he could do too. The guy remembered that the boys were preparing to participate in a competition for the place of the young head of the clan, and asked if they wanted to participate with such skills. Tang Munchang stated that they had been preparing for the competition for years and would never lose. Yenmeng decided to see if Tang Munchang would talk after tasting his power. Yenmeng parried Tang Munchang's blow and said that if the participants were at this level, the outcome of the competition was a foregone conclusion. The Hall of Hidden Poison was originally where the clan leader lived and where important family decisions were made. But since the head seat has been empty for a long time, this hall has become a meeting room for elders. The number of participants in the competition for the title of young clan leader has decreased, and the elders need to make a final decision regarding Tang Enman, the son of the Poison Phoenix. Enman had not yet officially announced his participation, but everyone knew that he was being openly bullied by the other children. The boy had no achievements under his belt so far, and the elders decided to exclude him from the competition. Tang Enman has the blood of the former clan leader, and his exclusion could call into question the legitimacy of the upcoming competition. The chief elder understood what the others were talking about, but did anyone not has martial arts, will lower the level of competition. Will this not become a bigger problem? Even though the boy has the blood of the former head, he is now just a heavy burden for the Tang family. But suddenly the door to the hall swung open and Tang Yenmeng walked in. The guy brought a girl and declared that he had experienced a lot of oppression from the Tang family during all this time and was not going to tolerate it any longer. To harm a child who is competing for the position of young leader so severely is a serious crime. Enmenu was well aware of their family's rules, but a fight between competitors was not a problem. The elder asked Yenmeng if he would really take part in the competition for the position of young leader. Yeonman stated that the elders should check the area outside the main hall since Munchan and Jianil had bullied him earlier. Enman simply followed one of the clan's rules, to repay kindness twice over, and revenge tenfold. The elder asked everyone to give Enman a chance to participate in the competition, because if the guy speaks so confidently, why should they stop him? The elder hoped that Yenman's confidence matched his skills, because if he didn't become the young clan leader, he would have to pay for what happened. Yenmen came home, he told his mother everything. She couldn't believe how the boy could decide to participate in the competition for the position of the young head of the clan. The name Enman means to survive as long as possible. The mother thought he was still a child, but now she realized that he was a magnificent man. Enman's mother decided not to ask where her son had learned all these techniques and how he had been able to surpass 3 children at once. The woman asked for an answer to just one question: is Enman sure about the competition for the position of young clan leader? Well, who is he if not the young head of the clan? After all, he is the son of the poisonous phoenix, the guy answered. Enman was so warm in his mother's arms. He wanted to protect his normal life, and if anyone decided to disturb it, he would destroy everyone. Tan Chokwi suggested to his sister Tan Jiha to leave everything as it was, because the competition for the position of the young head was not a child's play, and every moment was worth its weight in gold. Tang Jiha understood that Yemen was not the type of person who would act without a plan. His thinking, courage and self-control are simply incredible for a child his age. Yeonman's mother was grateful that Tan Chokwi and the Dark King clan continued to protect her son and take care of him before the competition. The situation the boy created was so serious that Tan Chokwi had to intervene. Tan Chokwi can't place much hope on Yeonman. Is it really okay for the guy to train with everyone else? Up until this point, Yenmen had been eating fresh meals prepared by his mother, sleeping a lot, and meditating to correct the distorted chi pathways. Now, Yenmeng doesn't need to hone his strength and skills. Someone like him who woke up in a previous life where he reached the level of a sword master can try something like that at any time. However, right now it is much more important to strengthen the vessel that contains this power, the body. At such a young age, only 12 years old, the meridians and pathways of the body are not yet very clogged. As the level of Yenmen increases, naturally a transformation or rebirth will occur. But even then, the foundation, or in other words, the body, will be vital. Now the guy needs to focus on the necessary nutrition for physical growth and rest to maintain balance. This will be enough. On the day of the competition, Tan Chokwi came for Yeonman, and after saying goodbye to the boy's mother, they left. If only Enman's father, Enlin, could see how much his son had grown up, his mother thought. The leader of the Dark King clan has gone to sort things out regarding the competition, and it looks like the guys still have half an hour before it starts. A group of guys recognized the son of the poisonous phoenix, Tang Yenmeng, who beat up Munchan. And Dennis from the group of guys said that these were false rumors, and he heard that the guy was not even capable of learning martial arts, and how could he participate in the same competition as them? The level of competition for the position of young clan leader had simply collapsed, and it looked like they needed to work on their discipline, one of the boys thought. But suddenly the guy who was trying to impose discipline fell to the ground from a strong blow. Everyone thought the guy had suddenly used a hidden weapon, but one of them noticed that it was just a half-eaten rice cake. How could Enman throw something like that with such force? One of the guys thought and declared that they would not leave it like that. Next to Munchan, but the guys had quite a large group, Yeonman said. Didn't they hear that Munchan and his group were defeated? Although it didn't matter anymore, Enman wanted the boys to experience it for themselves. By the way, Munchan didn't run away even with a broken arm, and the guys, being participants in the competition, certainly won't run away, Enman thought. One of the guys ordered everyone else to attack Yenmen at once and destroy him. Tan Chokwi noticed from afar that a group of boys were attacking a child participating in the competition and rushed over to help. But when he got to the scene of the incident, the guy saw that Enman had already decided everything himself and even managed to get bored while waiting. To prevent Tan Chokwi from misunderstanding him, Yeoman decided to explain that the boys started it first and asked him to be gentle with him. The elders can't just turn a blind eye to what's happening, because how could an injury have occurred right before the competition? Great Elder Tang Siakchan knew that if such a person became the young clan leader, something even more terrible would happen. Then the elders, without thinking twice, decided to change one of the rules of the competition. One of the girls was curious about how the competition was conducted. The girl next to her explained that starting from a regular mountain, they go through 2 or 3 years of training, and then compete one-on-one in duels. But one of the girls heard that the details of the competition were not being told to anyone, and decided to ask the stranger how she knew about all this. The girl replied that her father worked at the general staff, and she received a little hint from him, because information is needed no matter where someone is. The head of the Dark King clan, Tang Chokwi, who will be overseeing the competition, asked everyone to remain quiet. Tan Chokwi decided to voice the requirements for the competition. It lasts for 4 years, 3 of which are devoted to training throwing skills. The first year is devoted to finding a suitable methodology for individual training in concealed weapons skills. Over the next 2 years, comprehensive training is conducted under the guidance of appointed warriors. And after all the training is completed, the main competition will begin. The form of the competition will be a duel with goo poison, the Great Elder suddenly announced, interrupting Tan Chokwi. All the participants were shocked by what they heard. Could this really be the goo poison they thought it was? This method involves placing strong poisons in a jar to fight each other, purifying the potent toxin. Goo poison fight is a combat competition in which participants fight until only one person remains. The Great Elder stated that they were originally supposed to choose the young clan leader through one-on-one duels, but due to the incident that happened, many dropped out of the competition. And if the elders continue to act according to the original rules, such incidents may happen again. So they changed the format of the competition to allow everyone to show their full strength. The Great Elder explained that this was all because of Tang and Meng, because this was not just a childish fight, but a noble ceremony where people risked their lives to overcome their limits. The Great Elder wished everyone good luck in the battle and declared that the winner would possess everything that belonged to the Tang family of Sichuan. Only one person could survive a fight with goo's poison, and it seemed to Yen Meng that it wasn't that difficult. Meanwhile, in Sichuan province, in the territory of the Black Death Alliance, a meeting was being held in the meeting hall of the Dark Moon Sword Sect camp. The head thanked everyone who had gathered in the hall. He understood that everyone was busy with their own affairs, but asked to listen to what he had to say. Everyone was aware of the plan that the Tang family had come up with, and according to spy reports, they had announced it several days ago. It was right after this that the participants, that is, the children who could potentially take the place of the leader, left in carriages. Of course, the Tang family was in such a position that their leader could destroy them at any time if he wanted. The leader of the Black Death Alliance, Yu Kil-jun, decided not to touch the children for now, since they were still useful. It was clear as day that these children were the future of the Tang family, and if anything went wrong, it would cause irreparable damage to the family. Those in the assembly hall knew that the Dark Moon sect leader's words were undoubtedly true. Although they denied it, the Tang family still had something they had to be careful with. The boys decided not to rush the performance for now, because it would be easy to track down the carriage and pick the buds that the Tang family was trying to grow. But it wouldn't do them much harm, they thought. The competition for the position of head of the Tang family lasts for 4 years, so what if they put all their efforts into raising these children, and they are destroyed in the midst of their labor? The Zegal and Moan families. Therefore, Dark Moon Sword Sect member Makinghu decided to see where the carriage was heading for now and make his exit in 4 years. The surveillance of the children had already been set up, and it wasn't just Makinghu who had planted a small seed. Perhaps the entire Tang family would fall into their hands. The boys had already reached the location of the Tang family's competition for the position of young head. Although the competition rules have changed, the schedule and procedures remain the same, and participants will be called by numbers instead of names during the competition. There are 4 people in each group, and naturally, Yeoman's group is the 7th. Therefore, number 27 is Tang Yijong, number 26 is Tang Meyer, and number 25 is Tang Yuri. The presenter noticed that one was missing and noticed that Enman with number 28 was not there. Turning around, the presenter explained to the guy that they had no time to be daydreaming and asked him to keep up. Doesn't the leader feel it? Enman thought, because he felt someone's presence behind him, and it didn't look like a simple passerby or an escort. The guy understood that they were being tailed. When they got to their destination, the boys were surprised. There was absolutely nothing there. But suddenly the rock spoke and asked the 7th group to say the password. After saying the password, Poison King of Hidden Poison, a confirmation was announced and the rock opened. Ziegel Changsher introduced himself, greeted the guys and explained that he would help them at the competition. Ziegel family was once one of the 5 great families like the Tang family and Masters of Incarnation. But now it has fallen due to the invasion of the Demon Lord Heavenly Radiance. Ziegel Changsher explained that their family barely managed to survive, all thanks to the support of the Tang family. In gratitude for this, the Ziegel family protects the competition from outside attacks. It turned out that this was the Ziegel family's incarnation technique. It was impossible to even know where you were or what season it was. This was possible, Tang Yijong thought. The boys couldn't figure out what was going on with Tang Enmeng, because he was completely disorganized. Come to think of it, he was like that in the carriage too. Even in the cart, the escort warned the boys that when they arrived, they would have to walk hand in hand for 3 years, and they could introduce each other. Tan Yuri turned her attention to Yemeng. She had heard a lot about him, because among all those who came to the competition, there was no one who did not know about that fight. The guys got to know each other, and Tan Yuri decided to say that Enman was a daredevil, because he knew that the guy's great-grandfather was one of the 3 elders. And while the competition was going on, Yenmeng might be safe, but when he returned, everything would change, Tan Yuri said. Enman asked the girl what she meant by that. Was it really his fault that they now had to fight the goo poison? The girl explained that she was not blaming anyone, but was simply surprised that the rules had changed, because, no matter what, the guys were now in the same boat. The others might have let Enman get away with it, but it certainly wasn't Tan Meyer, because she had prepared so much for this day, and if that kid caused trouble again, she wouldn't let it go. But suddenly the boys noticed that their coach Ziegel had disappeared. He was right in front of them for just a few seconds and then suddenly disappeared. The boys didn't understand where he had gone. Tang Meyer knew that if you got lost in the incarnation, you could get stuck in a spatial rift, but the coach couldn't get into his own space. A little later, Tang Meyer thought about what would happen to them and how they would get out of there now. Tan Yuri suggested that maybe if they stood still, someone would come and save them. A little later, the boys noticed that Enman was busy with something, and they became interested in the question of why he was so calm. Ziegel thought that the guys should already be starting to panic, because they couldn't get out of the Ziegel family's phantom dome of the 7 castles without a cultivator. Who would have thought that the elders of the Tang family would be so petty and seize an entire group for one child? Ziegel was told that if he destroyed number 28, they would double the Ziegel family's support, and he decided not to ignore such an offer. But suddenly Ziegel heard a strange sound and, turning around, saw that someone had cut his incarnation. Seeing their coach, the boys decided to ask him if he thought about what would happen to them if they were left. The boys explained that they were still inexperienced, so they couldn't keep up with their coach and asked him to be more careful in the future. The boys didn't understand how Yemen could simply cut through Ziegel's incarnation. Tan Meyer explained to the boys that now was not the time to worry about this, as they were lucky to have found a coach. The boys decided to follow the coach closely this time so as not to lose him. And as soon as they had finished saying this, the boys turned around and noticed that their coach had disappeared again. Just think, a member of the Ziegel family is running around incarnation, but Yanmeng's eyes can't be fooled by simple tricks, Changshin thought. Ziegel found the exit leading to the training grounds and after entering, he decided that this should be enough. No matter what method that guy used, he definitely wouldn't be able to get there. One Jean, who was passing by, noticed Coach Ziegel. The warden also noticed that the trainer looked bad and that the members of the 7th group were nowhere to be seen. He decided to ask what had happened. The coach stated that it appeared that the seventh group would not participate in the competition. The coach explained that he had been waiting for the boys for a long time, but they never showed up, and they could have been attacked by bandits or wild animals. Unfortunately, these things happen without warning, the coach said, and it looks like they will now have to continue without the seventh group. Suddenly the trainer and the warden heard some strange sounds and thought that there was an intruder. Suddenly, Yenmeng broke one of the Zeegal family's highest forms of incarnation, the phantom dome of the seven castles. The guys from the guy's team were shocked and admitted that this was an amazing ability, because the guy personally destroyed the incarnation with a short sword. Enman explained to the boys that he had not destroyed the incarnation and that it would soon close, so they had to leave quickly. The warden was afraid that the boys had been attacked like Coach Zeegal, and so he was glad to see them. Enman stated that it seemed like their trainer didn't quite realize that they were lost, but thanks to him marking the entrance with an incarnation, they easily found their way to him. Yeoman's team didn't understand at all why the guy was lying, but Tan Myers said that there must be some reason for it. Yenmeng realized that their coach was following the orders of the Tang family, but for now he would just treat it as suspicion. But if after the competition it was revealed that their coach had been collaborating with the elders, the boy vowed to eradicate the Zeegal clan. The coach apologized for such a mistake and stated that he had to go check on the destroyed incarnation. The warden said it had been noisy, but it was good that the boys had returned unharmed, and he apologized for not accompanying them for some time. Tan Wonjin, a member of Banwi's squad, introduced himself to the boys and stated that from now on he would be in charge of their training during the competition. Tan Meyer from Team 7 had previously heard that Banwi's squad had disappeared many years ago. Banwi squad is the direct military force under the command of the former young clan head of the Tang family. Each of them was comparable to a great leader in strength. They were one of the most impressive elite troops of the Tang family. The previous young head was Yemen's mother, Poison Phoenix, Tang Myers thought. Yen Men became curious and decided to ask the warden why he was not in the Tang family. The warden explained that many years ago, they had fought desperately to protect their mistress, the young head of the Poison Phoenix clan. In the battle against the demon lord of heavenly radiance, they suffered a crushing defeat. Those who are unable to protect their mistress are only worthy of being called sinners, Tang Wonjin declared. This ended the introduction, and now Tang Wonjin ordered everyone to listen to him carefully. He would explain the rules of the competition. The first year of the competition will be a period of independent practice for the guys. They can train as they see fit. The boys can receive manuscripts and teachings on martial arts depending on how they perform. So, the legendary Tang family technique, Reign of 10,000 Heavenly Flowers, which was lost in the battle with the Demon Lord of Heavenly Radiance, will also be there, Tang Yuri thought. The Reign of 10,000 Heavenly Flowers will go to the one who takes the place of the young leader, Tang Wonjin declared. The information was not complete, but the essence is passed down from generation to generation. Reign of 10,000 Heavenly Flowers is a technique in which many hidden blades fly like a storm. And maybe, like the sword control technique, he could copy it too, Tang Yenmeng thought. Tang Wonjin said that the boys were learning the essence of the 10,000 Heavenly Flower Rain technique one by one, but he wasn't sure if they could handle it. Tan Wonjin realized that he had been talking too much and decided to declare that the boys should now focus solely on training. The guys can train in groups or individually, in general, as they want. The boys also decided to find out where they would live and sleep. Well, they heard an unexpected answer that in the forest, naturally, they would have to get everything themselves. The boys didn't think they'd be training while lounging in comfortable beds, the warden said. Comfort doesn't make anyone strong. Tan Wonjin said that the most important thing for the boys now is to adapt to the extreme conditions and said that they can start training according to their preferences. Tang Yenmeng was confused as to why they couldn't sleep comfortably in a normal bed. He felt that there was no need to adapt to life in the forest. Tan Wonjin explained that if the boy passed the test, he could spend the night in the mansion inside the incarnation. But if not, he had better be prepared for anything. The test was simple, according to the supervisor. The team members had to surround Tang Yenmeng and throw hidden weapons at him. The test will be completed if Tang Yenmeng can block or dodge the boys' attacks within 5 steps. Tang Wonjin explained to the boys that the game would begin when Tang Yenmeng blindfolded himself. Tang Yenmeng doubted that this was even possible, and he was even more interested in the question of why no one was moving. Tang Yenmeng, with his eyes closed, determined that 167 objects were flying towards him. In the guy's opinion, such a number of cutting objects was too much, but he could easily handle it and used binding. What many people miss is that martial arts are not just about technique, but also about principles like depth. Simply put, principles such as weight, speed and variability are fundamental. Ascension martial arts include destruction, dispersal, cutting and sharpness. For Tang Yenmeng, who had already understood these principles in his previous life, the task was not difficult. But for those people who are just learning and have not yet achieved enlightenment, this will be a shock. Tang Wenjin was shocked that the boy had repelled all the blades in one move. No, he hadn't repelled them, he had tied them up, even he would have had a hard time dodging that. Tang Yenmeng asked the supervisor if he had completed the task. The warden would like to say that this is not certain, but due to the pressure from the guys, he declared that the guy had completed the task and could go and rest in the estate. Tang Meyer decided to ask Tang Yenmeng. He wasn't going to enjoy the comfort alone, leaving his team behind. Tang Yenmeng, thinking that there must be a lot of different dishes in the manor, set off, leaving his team behind. It's good that the rest of the team hasn't lost motivation, but it seems like the outcome of the battle has already been decided. Apparently, Tang Yenmeng was the one, the warden thought, and perhaps the guy could revive the Tang family. 4 months have already passed, and on the first day the boys had to do nothing but run away from animals. The first thing they encountered was a bear. The boys couldn't even find normal prey, and they had to chew grass and roots. All the boys burst into tears when their hunt finally brought them their first fruits. It was very difficult for the guys, but despite this, they still found shelter. And Tang Yenmeng is probably doing well there, one of the team said, but Tang Meyer immediately shut everyone's mouth and told them not to even remember him. Tang Meyer was confident that Tang Yenmeng, once he entered the estate, would definitely get what he deserved. Well, considering what he did back then, how strong he must have become if he continued training all this time, Tang Yizhong thought. When Tang Meyer woke up, she couldn't understand where all their meat was, and looking at Tang Yuri, the guys realized that she had eaten it all. In the Kandoga Mountains, in the fortress of the embodiment of the Dome of the Seven Castles, the boys began training. After parrying many attacks, Tang Yenmeng finally decided that it was time to try out a new technique. The opponents noticed that Tang Yenmeng had scattered all his weapons in the air and could not understand what he was hoping for. Yenmeng's opponents could no longer see anything, because everything was flying too fast. Without thinking twice, the guy decided to finish it all off with the crazy dance of rotating lines. Tang Wenjin was surprised that the guy had eliminated the trained soldiers in the blink of an eye. Moreover, Tang Yenmeng controlled the power of such a large-scale attack to the point that it only cut one's skin. Tang Wenjin asked Tang Yenmeng if he had invented this technique. When he answered yes, the guard said that if you got into it, it would be difficult to get out. Tang Wenjin admitted that the technique was indeed amazing and asked the boy its name. Tang Yenmeng called it the crazy dance of revolving lines. Using such a move must consume a lot of internal energy, the supervisor thought, and asked how the guy could handle it. The warden said that he once asked the warrior for a manual on the eye's techniques. There were Piercing Sky and Eye of the Flowing Stream, but the warden was recommended the former because the latter was unfinished. Tang Yenmeng claimed that he had mastered the Flowing Stream Eye, one of the Tang family's most ancient techniques. Something was missing then, but the guy realized that this technique was part of the martial arts of Ascension. Using this technique to throw through the trajectories that Tang Yenmeng can see, he can direct the object to the desired point with minimal expenditure of internal energy. There was nothing else that could surprise Tang Wenjin, so he decided to tell the guy that in 2 months the children from his team would come there. The boys will undergo the same test under the same conditions as Tang Yenmeng. Although the boys proved that they had the necessary skills to pass it, they said that they would become even stronger. Tang Yenmeng said that he would only be glad to see how strong his friends had become. In his past life, Tang Yenmeng was only connected to his master, Sword Ghost. But now, despite Tang Yenmeng's background and actions, he is developing connections. For some reason, Tang Yenmeng really wanted to see his comrades from the 7th team as soon as possible. On the first day of training the guys were complete beginners, but now they have reached a completely different level of strength. The thought of meeting Tang Yenmeng again literally excited Tang Meyer. Arriving at their destination, the boys first called for Tang Enman to come out to them. But it was too quiet everywhere, and the guys thought that the guy had run away. Turning to Tang Yijong to say that he had been keeping quiet lately. The girls noticed that Tang Enman, hugging Tang Yijong, was standing behind and most likely heard everything. Tang Yenmeng explained to the girls that he hid to give them a surprise, and asked what they wanted to do with his head. Tang Yenmeng decided to invite the girls to demonstrate the results of their 6 months of training. The girls explained that they were just fooling around and it was just a joke. The boys didn't even notice Tang Yenmeng until they turned around. Living in the forest certainly heightened their senses, but their level with the guy was very different. On top of that, the girls noticed that the guy had grown taller and his face had changed, Tang Meyer thought. Tan Meyer couldn't understand where such thoughts came from in her head. Perhaps it was all because until now she had only stared at the animals in the forest. Tang Yenmeng asked Tang Meyer not to be so embarrassed, because it was immediately obvious that her strength had increased, and she was slightly lost in comparison to him. Meanwhile, Jiangju returned to the meeting room, and all the gentlemen immediately got down to the essence of the meeting. The chief asked his subordinates if there was anyone notable in their groups. One of the guys marked his participant as number 2, saying that she had made great progress compared to the other candidates. There is no clear desire in the girl to become stronger or to survive. However, there is a sense of undying hatred towards someone, and this definitely gives her good fuel. Speaking of potential winners, one cannot help but mention participant number 10, because the guy passed the military test in just a month, the second man said. The third stated that the participants numbered 2 and 10 were certainly outstanding, but after meeting number 28 they would all turn out to be quite mediocre. Not only did the guy break the man's incarnation, but his training itself was a complete shock. The guy demonstrated skills that were beyond the capabilities of even some experienced masters. However, recruiting number 28 was too risky, because it seemed he had discovered their plan. Jiangju decided that it was better to exclude number 28 from the discussion, since they needed a puppet that would be easy to control. But what about number 2? Jiangju decided to introduce her to his nephew. Jiangju heard that the girl's face was disfigured due to the injury, and the heart of such a child is easily shaken. The girls can help her win the competition and become the young mistress of the clan, and then arrange her engagement to Jiangju's nephew. Ziegel clan has a relationship with the head of the Tang clan, and this will expand their powers, allowing them to interfere in the internal affairs of that family. By strengthening their influence in favor of their interests, one day they will be able to completely absorb the Tang family. This was precisely why they supported their competition, and Ziegel decided to end the meeting at this point. Number 28 was too valuable to the Ziegel family to lose. But if he could survive the tournament, he could later be lured with revenge, adopted, and offered the position of the new head of the family, Chang Xin thought. Having moved to the estate, the guys from the team began to train twice as hard. Of course, there are undoubtedly more workouts, but for the sake of sleeping in warmth and comfort, it's worth it. Tang Meyer heard that Yijong and Yanmeng went to the lab. Tang Yuri heard that Yijong rushed in, gritting her teeth, and swearing to destroy someone. Tang Meyer laughed. Will Yijong be okay? After all, she will surpass the poison master in the end. Yijong explained to Yeomian that she had put her whole soul into the poison, and that this could not be ignored. Without thinking twice, Tang Enman drank the poison, and Yijong began screaming hysterically for him to spit it out. Could it be that the poison was weaker than originally intended? Yizong thought. This poison was capable of melting a person's insides, but Yijong wondered why Tang Yenmeng was still okay. The guys didn't understand at all why the poison didn't work on Tang Yenmeng. Was he really immune to all poisons? Tang Yenmeng explained that this was something completely different, because this was the Tang family's main technique, poison madness, cleansing poisons. After all, it would be strange for someone who works with poisons to be exposed to their harmful effects. And since they are called poison masters, shouldn't Tang Yenmeng be able to control even the substances that enter him? As expected, the poisons that entered Tang Yenmeng's body were converted into internal energy and accumulated within him. If you don't overdo it, toxins will be like an elixir for a guy, but such a state can only be achieved through deep awareness. Those who regard poisons merely as weapons will not be able to listen to the arguments of people who taste them. Now, weak food substances are unlikely to increase Tang Yenmeng's internal energy, so something stronger is needed. Tang Yenmeng will have a lot to deal with before he can live the normal life he dreamed of. Tang Yenmeng could deal with the elders at any time, however, if an attack came from the Black Death Alliance or the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord, the outcome would be unpredictable. Tang Yenmeng had no personal grudge against the Black Death Alliance, but one could not turn a blind eye to the fact that they divided Sichuan. The leader of that alliance is called the genius of their era, having destroyed 3 of the 9 factions. If Tang Yenmeng were his old self, he would have fought him with ease, but the guy had not yet reached his previous level. In order to live like an ordinary person, Tang Yenmeng needs to become as strong as he was in his previous life. If only Yizhong could make a poison several times more powerful than the last one, Tang Yenmeng thought. If only Yizhong could create those legendary 10 poisons of the Tang family. Tang Yenmeng calls himself a descendant of the previous clan leader, but he knows nothing at all. 10 poisons are the strongest poisons, the recipes for which they received from their ancestors. From 1 to 10, the higher the number, the stronger the poison itself. Most of the formulas have sunk into oblivion. The 10th was so powerful that it accepted even top-class masters. The surviving substances were divided among the elders and are now kept by them. Even the highest masters, who were capable of undergoing the most powerful changes, could not cope with them. It sounded as if it were a poison that could be coveted. Tang Yenmeng asked Yizhong if he could make the 10th poison, but he replied that the formula had been lost. But in any case, the 10th poison is so dangerous that its use was banned altogether, and even Tang Yenmeng would not survive if he swallowed it. Meanwhile, Tan Sukchong tried to find out from Tan Yunneng what she did to him. Tan Ennen decided to repeat her question. She asked the guy what was wrong with her face. Tan Sukchong instantly incinerated her with his gaze. Who would have thought that the poison that the grandfather had judged for the girl would be so strong? Here they are, the 10 poisons of the Tang family. The pain that Tang Ennen had experienced that day was something she would never forget. That rage and pain would accumulate within her, and she would definitely take it out on Tang Yenmeng in a duel with poisons. A whole year has passed since the start of preparations for the competition. The guys have been honing their martial arts and compensating for their weaknesses. And now, finally, the time has come for a real test. The boys had to appoint a team captain. Tan Wonji decided to appoint a temporary one for now. But by the 3rd year of the competition, the guys will have to officially choose a leader for themselves. Each captain will represent their team in the fight against Gu Poison, a battle to the death. Therefore, it is wiser for the team to be led by its most outstanding member. Tan Wonji decided to appoint the team's number 28 member, Tan Yenmeng, as the temporary captain. Tan Wonji asked the boys if they had any objections. After hearing their answer, the warden handed something to the boy. Tang Wonji explained that this was the Tang family's elixir, and it was called the Heavenly Heart Pill. Heavenly Heart Pill is an elixir created from a decoction of the root of 100-year-old ginseng, which significantly improves internal energy depending on the level of the recipient. The rest of the guys from Tang Yenmeng's team were surprised why they were giving such a valuable thing to him. Tan Wonji explained that this was a privilege bestowed upon the team captain, and the Tan family had high hopes for him. Tang Wonji also explained that he personally also had great hopes for Tang Yenmeng's success, and after taking the Heavenly Heart Pill, he should feel something unusual. But without thinking for long, Tang Yenmeng decided to ask if he could get something other than this, because he didn't need the elixir, he needed something else. It is simply unheard of for someone to voluntarily refuse the elixir unless their inner strength is increased by it. Tan Wonji decided to ask the guy what he wanted instead of a pill. He replied that he needed a powerful poison. Tang Yenmeng asked for the strongest poison of all. He wanted to obtain the 10 poisons of the Tang family. Later, when the team went to Tang Yenmeng, the guys saw only weapons on the table and decided to ask the guy what it meant and where the elixir was. Tang Yenmeng explained that he needed the Tang family's 10 poisons, but they were never given to him, so he took the weapon. As soon as Tang Meyer heard this, she pounced on Tang Yenmeng. How could he do this to his team? Tang Yuri tried to calm the boys down, explaining that if Tang Yenmeng chose this, then his decision should be respected. Tang Yizhong explained that the elders would definitely be happy that they were able to preserve the Heavenly Heart Pill. After listening to everyone, Tang Yenmeng declared that he would not return that pill back to the warden for now. A few hours earlier, Tang Wenji had handed the boy the weapon he had requested and asked if he was sure it was a worthy replacement for the Heavenly Heart pill. Tang Wenji also explained to the boy that he was the only one who asked for the herb instead of the elixir. Before leaving, Tang Yenmeng decided to ask the supervisor what they would do with that pill. Tang Wenji explained that she needed to be returned to the medicine hall. Tang Yenmeng told the warden that he had a very interesting idea. You see, the crew members can band together to overthrow the temporary captain. Tang Yenmeng said that they had agreed to re-elect the team leader and give him the Heavenly Heart pill. The supervisor admitted that the idea was good and it could be a good motivation, and since it was an investment in the future of the Tang family, there was no need to restrict you. Tang Yenmeng explained to the guys on the team that each of them could fight him whenever they wanted. The deadline was before the start of the goo poison fight. Each of the guys immediately ran to prepare for battle with Tang Yenmeng. There was no point in expecting Tang Yenmeng to give in, because if he became the clan leader, he would definitely give everyone a Heavenly Heart pill. Tang Yizhong had already lost to Captain Tang Yenmeng many times in a short period of time. Looking at this from the side, the girls noticed that the guy didn't get tired at all, because he didn't even lose his breath even once. Tang Yuri said that recently she was so indifferent to all these competitions or anything else, she only lived to admire Tang Yenmeng. Tang Meyer also admitted that watching Tang Yenmeng was indeed quite fascinating. Tang Yizhong accepted her defeat, which means that Tang Yenmeng will take the place of the young clan leader. Tan Yizhong said that they hadn't seen the other teams yet, but it was already hard for him to imagine that Yeoman would lose. Each of the boys has grown tremendously over the past year, and member number 28 is now officially named team captain, the warden said. Tang Wenji declared that the boys would begin a real fight with goose poison starting tomorrow and asked them to complete their preparations. 3 years have already passed since the guys started training. In some teams there were exclusions of participants, and some even died. But in comparison with other teams, the 7th team looks quite successful. The team has already reached a level comparable to the Bonvi Brigade, so there is definitely something to be proud of. The warden had already told the boys several times about the fight with goose poison, but he decided to warn them one last time. Until now, the use of poisons in the barrier was prohibited, but in a duel with goo poison, even the strongest of them is allowed to be used, with the exception of the 10 poisons of the Tang family. The warden explained that this was a competition in which the participants used the most lethal means, so he asked the guy number 28 to push his abilities to the limit. Tang Yizhong provided Tang Yenmeng with the poisons he requested and explained that any other person would have already died from just one drop of the fire poison suppressing elixirs. Ocular poison is useless unless it gets directly into the eyes, but as for the powder of the 9 ailments, its action is more multifaceted. Tang Yizhong gave Tang Yenmeng all the necessary instructions. He was not very worried, but asked the guy to promise that he would win. Tang Yenmeng explained that the only one who could harm him in that competition was his team. Goo poison fight arrived. Tang Enning was very lucky with the 10 poisons her grandfather had prepared. Ziegel family offered to help the girl, and she became curious about what their plan was. The man believed that the girl was aware. The arena for the fight was created by the embodiment of their family. The man also explained that they can control them with unprecedented ease to put them in an advantageous position. Tang Yenning knew that the Ziegel family would not help her without a reason, so she decided to find out what they really wanted. To be honest, the Ziegel family is too weak to be revived, and they want to unite with the Tang family's forces, but they don't want to lose all their independence. In fact, the Ziegel family says that they want to use the girl to have an opportunity to interfere in the Tang family's affairs. But what if she refuses? The man stated that this was precisely why he had come to negotiate now and asked what the girl wanted. Tang Ennen had waited and endured for 3 years just for this day. The girl wanted to destroy Tang Enmeng and get back the life she had lost. There were 7 teams in total. The first team was Tang Yenneng, the second team was Tang Cole, the third team was Tang Qin Ling, the fourth team was Tang Hai Rin, the fifth team was Tang Zeal, the sixth team was Tang Meng So, and the 7th team was Tang Yen Meng. Could this be the place to duel with goo poison? It's huge, Tang Yen Meng thought. Ziegel Chongsher thought that the participant number 28 from the 7th group would go. The more Ziegel watched the boy, the more he felt like his potential was being wasted. But the Ziegel family has already made their choice, and they need to quickly eliminate the guy before something else appears. Tang Yenmen had a feeling that someone was looking at him. But how is this possible? the guy thought, breaking through to reality through so many layers of embodiment. Tang Yenmeng felt that unpleasant gaze more and more. Could it be the Ziegel family? The boy thought. Tang Yenmeng remembered Tang Wenji's words. He said that no one had the right to interfere in a duel with goo poison. Ziegel family had been bustling about since the start of the competition. Could it be that they were about to get involved in the duel now? Tang Yenmeng thought. But whatever the Ziegel family was planning, let them play for now, Tang Yenmeng thought, because he would hold them accountable once the competition was over. Meanwhile, Ziegel Changshin didn't understand how Tang Yenmeng could recognize him, since he was behind several layers of incarnation. Ziegel Changsha also understood that if he did not quickly leave the incarnation world, he would be blinded. Moreover, Tang Yenmeng's art of ball control allowed him to cut through the space of embodiment to its very essence. Ziegel Changsha had never seen such a level of ball control before and knew that they would definitely not be able to handle Tang Yenmeng. And the exhausted girl wandered through the forest and cursed everyone, because she didn't want to die at all. The girl just wanted to achieve high results, join the army and support her impoverished parents. But she didn't understand at all why everything turned out this way, because she never wanted to be the young head of the clan. The girl was planning to give in and leave by mutual agreement, but Tang Qinling appeared. And what was there to surrender for if Tang Qinling wanted to kill all the guys who were on the battlefield? The girl wanted to surrender to anyone she met, to the captains of other teams, because there might still be veins, the girl thought. She also planned to leave the Tang family if that same guy became the clan head. Kylan behind her, who said that the girl's light technique at least seemed fast. Well, the girl has already been caught, how pathetic her internal energy is, because she is no different from others, the guy thought. The girl asked the guy why he was doing this. They didn't need it, because they were all from the Tang family. But Tang Qingling said that he never considered himself a member of the Tang family. Meanwhile, Tang Enman, seeing a certain cave, decided to go in there, because if there was no stranger present, then there was no risk that someone would find him. After entering the cave, Tang Enman did not feel any anxious feelings and realized that he needed to quickly ascend to the level of superiority. This was the most opportune time, because Tang Enman's body had grown so much that there shouldn't be any side effects. Enlightenment and internal energy to open the poison meridians. With the experience from his past life, Tang Yenmeng almost achieved enlightenment. Yenmeng's internal energy had also increased sufficiently thanks to Yizhong's poisons. All preparations had been completed, and the boy's internal energy had also increased. Tang Yenmeng was ready to destroy all the restrictions placed on his meridians, releasing the poisonous madness. Yenmeng's internal power bursts out, and during this process, martial artists usually experience indescribable pain. The structures are destroyed and rebuilt countless times. The body is literally reborn. With the experience of his past lives, it was much easier for Tang Yenmeng to experience it a second time. Tang Yenmeng began to regularly clear the meridians of impurities in the morning. After all, if they were still present at the time of this reincarnation, Tang Yenmeng would have had problems. It's not right to go into battle in stinking clothes. This was just the beginning, but I already feel bad. Goo poison fight. There are some significant physical changes to note, but the efficiency of the internal energy is really up to par. Tang Yenmeng realized that it was probably time for him to start moving properly. Meanwhile, Tang Qilin was venting his dissatisfaction to Tang Chongil, because the boy did not understand what he had been doing for these 3 years. Tang Chongil was already thinking about why he, of all people, had to run into this guy in that duel. An orphan who was raised as his own grandson by the great elder of the Tang family. Rumor has it that Tang Qilin is inhumanly strong, and the guy thought that he would have no chance at all if he struck first. Tan Chongil couldn't even touch Tan Kailan and was already in this position. Tan Chongil remembered Tan Yenmeng, and the thought that he hadn't encountered him made him feel even better. Tan Qilin felt hurt that the guy in front of him remembered something even scarier than him. Due to this, Tang Qilin decided to share his secret and told Tang Chongil that he was a spy for the Black Death Alliance. And since the guy had found out his little secret, it was no longer possible to leave him alive. Tan Chongil was about to pass away soon anyway, so the boy decided to pretend that he was a member of the Mak Injuk Silent Sword of the Great Darkness sect. But before his final strike, Tang Qilin felt his body stop moving. Tang Enman sensed someone's presence and decided to check, there were familiar faces there. Tang Yenmeng decided to ask the guy if he had left their last meeting. A few years ago, someone wanted Tang Qiling to infiltrate the Sichuan Tang family. With such data, someone will quickly warm up the guy if he pretends to be an orphan. In the next few years, there would be a competition for the position of young head, in which kinship had no meaning. The boy was ordered to kill the other contenders, and if he succeeded, everyone in the family would recognize him. Tan Chongil told Tan Yongman that the guy was a spy and his real name was Mak Injuk. Could it be that the anger the boy felt before entering the cliff was him? Tang Yenmeng thought. The guys decided to neutralize the poison and find out what Tang Kailan's goal was. But Tan Chongil thought that this was not necessary at all, because if he was from the Black Death Alliance, then everything was clear. Tang Chongil decided to apologize to Tang Yenmeng for last time, and he truly felt sorry. But Tang Yenmeng said that he didn't care about the past at all, so he asked the boy not to bother. Tan Chongil knew that this couldn't fix anything, but he thought that he should apologize properly. Suddenly, Tang Yenmeng was attacked from behind by Tang Qilan. Since he wouldn't survive anyway, he at least decided to take Tang Yenmeng with him. Tang Yenmeng didn't like to play with the barely alive, but since the guy was trying so hard, Tang Yenmeng decided to eliminate him without leaving a trace. It would have been better to have a matter that could be buried, but it was already too late. Tang Yenmeng destroyed Tang Qilan with a light stroke. Tan Chongil couldn't get over what he saw, because Tan Qilan was an invincible empty spy, but one of the first contenders. Moreover, his main technique is the Black and White Blade School's long sword technique, a terrifying technique that allows guys to quickly wield blades without any problems. Tang Yenmeng decided to ask Tang Chongil what they would do next. The guys were left there, only the two of them, and Tan Chongil was not against giving up, but he had no idea how to get out of there. Tang Yenmeng opened a portal and kicked out Tang Chongil, saying that he would not see him off, and left. Tang Chongil thanked Tang Yenmeng for saving him and wished him luck as he left the battlefield. Mak Inhu could track whether a person was alive even from afar, and that was how they knew that Mengguo was dead. This Mengguo was implanted into the younger child. In other words, the younger one is no longer alive. Although he was Mak Inhu's bastard, born from a servant, he surpassed his brothers and sisters in talent. Mak Inhu was afraid that if his wife learned the truth, she would give up her role as heir to her eldest son, and he intended to destroy the younger 12 times. That's why Mak Inhu allowed the boy to live as a spy in the Tang family. Since he could not give his child anything as a father, he decided to at least avenge him and ordered all participants to prepare for battle on Mount Gonsan. The moment was approaching when they could destroy the Tang family, since their command was not there. Mak Inhu declared that no person bearing the surname Tang should return from Mount Gongsan alive. All this seemed strange to Tang Yenmen. He ran there day and night, and did not meet a single living soul, not to mention people. And no matter how big the world was, it was hard to believe. If that was the case, then the other survivors must be from the Ziegel family, Tang Yenmeng thought. It doesn't look like the Tang clan is cooperating with Ziegel, Tang Yenmeng thought, because if Ziegel were to gain an advantage by helping with the competition, in the future, they might get the right to speak in the Tang family. And suddenly the guy remembered Ziegel Changshe. The night sky seemed magnificent to Tang Yenmeng, and he dreamed that his mother could see this beauty too. Tang Yenmeng thought about how his mother was doing, and suddenly, even to himself, he fell asleep. The sleeping Tang Yenmeng was found by Tang Yening, but the girl had no idea who it was. Tan Yenin set the conditions to meet the last surviving or vulnerable Yenmen. Like Kinlan, but the girl thought he was quite handsome. But if you think about it, the grandson of someone named Ziegel Changshin might look like that, the girl thought. Tan Enan, of course, felt a little sorry, but she had no other choice, and the guy would have to die too. The girl hoped that the guy would not be too offended, because after all, the competition ends when there is only one person left. Tan Enan thought that the guy should also prepare himself. She heard a question asking if she was ready. Tang Yenmeng decided to ask the girl if she was talking to the Ziegel family. While the others were fighting, the girl found a warm corner for herself and planned to suddenly attack the last survivor. Tang Yenmeng decided to find out from Tang Yening what kind of deal she had with the Ziegel family, and explained that if the girl wanted to breathe some more, she had to act faster. Tang Enan didn't want to say anything to Tang Enmeng and dropped her blade in surprise. Tang Enmeng knew that it was Tang Ening standing in front of him because the girl had allowed him to do this to her face. Tang Enmeng knew that the girl's character was the same as before and thought about disfiguring her entire face this time. Meanwhile, Ziegel Changsha, who was watching everything, realized that his plan had completely failed. Number 28 suppressed the opponents of higher levels. First, Ziegel eliminated everyone except number 2. It was good that number 10 was able to quickly defeat his opponents, but everything came to an end when number 28 appeared. Ziegel Changsha wasn't sure whether number 2 and 10 had a chance even with their skills, and whether they could defeat number 28. Ziegel couldn't even imagine how long it took to destroy number 10. But if number 28 wins, the Ziegel family's entire plan will go down the drain. Meanwhile, Mak In-hu and his squad had already seen Mount Gongsan, but one of his subordinates, Chong Yonsan, decided to ask his leader if the forces were too much for a bunch of children from the Tang clan. Their disciples alone number more than 200, add the army of other breakaway factions, and it comes to more than 300 people. Mak In-hu knew that this was a lot to take against the Tang clan, but it was a necessary measure because Mount Gongsan was the territory of the local Gong sect. The power of the Gong clan was incomparable to that of the fallen Tang, and the guys would be defeated if the troops were few. And with such a number, they will cautiously wait and watch, and, moreover, having learned that the guys' targets are not them, they will prefer to stay on the sidelines. Mak In-hu also explained to his subordinate that the boy he was taking care of had failed. Seeing the swordsman Tae Yul-mook, Jae-gal didn't understand what he was doing there, but he wouldn't have known about that place if he hadn't wanted to participate. Well, whatever the case, Ziegel thought that he had to inform the right people about this and take action. But then a bright thought came to his mind. If that man destroyed number 28, he would have nothing to fear from the Tang clan exposing their plan. Meanwhile, Tang Enan still couldn't believe that she didn't recognize Tang Enmeng's face. Tang Yenmeng was distracted by the girl's blade, because it was the first time the guy had seen such a bright red poison. Tang Enan decided to use the boy's inattention as a chance to give him poison to drink. But suddenly Tang Enmeng grabbed the girl's hand and decided to see what she had in her hand. Apparently, the container contained the same poison as the blade, and the guy decided to ask the girl if she had any more. Tang Enmeng didn't want to tolerate the girl's silence and scared her by saying that he would repeat everything like last time. The girl stopped the guy and said that this was a special poison of the Tang clan, the poison Varenho, which they loved to use. Such poison cannot be used carelessly. If it is really him, how wasteful to use it for trifles, Tang Yenmeng thought. Tang Yenan said that she had told everything and, giving in, asked the guy to let her go. But Tang Enman had not yet heard everything he wanted, so he decided to help the girl fight the others. Tang Yenmeng asked the girl if it was true that she was related to the Ziegel clan, and if so, he asked her to tell him what kind of contract they had. Tang Enmeng warned Tang Enan that if she denied it, he would feed that poison to her. Tan Yenning said that she was promised marriage if the Ziegel and Tan families united and stayed together, trusting each other until the end of their days. The engagement of the next head of the family. Tang Yenmeng believed that the heads of Ziegel were trying to maintain their status in this way. In Meng's opinion, Tang Enning had received an offer she could never have dreamed of, and she would hardly have refused it. While drinking all the poison from Varenho, Tang Yenmeng was thinking about what to do next with Tang Yenning. The girl couldn't believe her eyes and thought, what kind of idiot is drinking the poison of the Tang clan himself? Even the ability to neutralize poisons couldn't cope with him, but the guy's grip did not weaken. Nothing serious had happened to Tang Enmeng, and Tang Enan couldn't believe her eyes. The Tang clan believes that poison-neutralizing people are a myth. Immune to poison, they can kill dozens of people with a single breath or drop of blood. Tang Yenmeng, without thinking twice, decided to destroy his last rival, Tang Yenning. Tang Yenmeng noticed that the feeling of that poison was completely different, but that was because it was the Tang clan's special poison. Tang Yenmeng, as if he had mastered Yang Gang's martial art, thought, so this is how the power of 10 suns feels. The night was full, but for some reason the sun rose. Everything is changing too quickly, Tang Yenmeng thought. Is the battle really over? But suddenly, closing his eyes, Tang Enmeng felt that he had counted no more than 300 people. There were a lot of people, and Ziegel couldn't help but notice such a large number of people. But if the victim comes into your hands, how can you not deal with her? thought Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng was glad that he now had someone to warm up with, because there would only be one winner in this battle. Meanwhile, Ziegel Chashin decided to tell Tang Wanjin about the illegal entry, and Ganja was also mentioned. Tan Wanjin was beside himself with rage, because Tae Yul was supposed to be in Sation. How did they know about the place hidden behind the 7 chains? Tang Wanjin didn't want to waste any time. They had to go and stop them as soon as possible. Ziegel Chashin couldn't imagine anything like that and reported that the place they had entered was the inside of the arena where the competition was taking place, and this made it impossible for them to interfere. The only thing they could do was rely on the remaining children of the clans and hope that those who managed to survive would survive the attack. Upon reaching Tang Qingling's body, Ma Qinghu knew that they were on the right track. Judging from the wound on the boy's body, he was stabbed with something like poisonous needles, and given that there was no trace of a battle, it was a single attack. Ma Qinghu ordered all his soldiers to search for them everywhere, but he had to find those rats from the Tang clan. Ma Qinghu was sure that there were those who had already noticed them and were hiding. He also ordered his subordinates to inform him immediately as soon as they found anyone. No one on that mountain with the surname Tang was allowed to survive under any circumstances. After going a little further, the soldiers noticed the body of a man, who also had a needle with poison on him. The soldiers immediately raised all their swords and were ordered to be on guard. But suddenly a rain of poisonous needles fell from the sky. This was the technique of the poisonous flame palms, exceptionally lethal. Thanks to Shiryuan, shooting needles does not require much effort, which is an ideal combination. After Tang Yenmeng destroyed all those who attacked him, he decided to look for those who went to the east to look for him. At that time, Ma Qinghu had already been informed that all the search teams had been destroyed. There were no signs of a struggle, only traces of blows from something like needles. Most likely, the teams were destroyed by the same poison they saw on the first body, and there could be no mistakes. After some time, Ma Qinghu was also informed that the eastern detachment had also been destroyed, and not a single group had survived. A little over an hour, and nearly 100 of their men were destroyed in one way, possibly at the hands of one man. Ma Qinghu knew that this was no ordinary warrior, and that a master from the Tang clan had undoubtedly intervened, meaning that they were being hunted. Ma Qinghu handed over command to Commander Zhang. The attacker uses ghost techniques, so Ma Qinghu decided to protect his people from the rear. Ma Qinghu couldn't afford to lose another student, so he counted on Commander Chan. It was too quiet and there was no trace. The sun was setting and it would be dark in a couple of hours. Commander Chong explained to everyone that if they did not discover the ambush before dark, they were finished and would suffer massive losses. Perhaps it would be a good idea to retreat temporarily and regroup before things got any worse, Commander Chong thought. So he explained to the others that they would be leaving in an hour. But suddenly Tang Yenmeng said that he had not yet decided whether to let them go or not. But when did he appear there? Thought Commander Chong and, without thinking twice, sent everyone to shelter. No one had time to notice Tang Yenmeng, and he destroyed everyone while the commander was saying something. Commander Chong was on guard the entire time, but he didn't notice Tang Yenmeng approaching them. It must be him, the guy who carried out the massacre, but he doesn't look like a skilled master at all, thought Commander Chong. Tang Yenmeng used the void absorption technique, which is a technique for moving objects by filling them with chi energy. It can't be, thought Commander Chong, because only a supreme master who has achieved enlightenment can use this technique. Tang Yenmeng collected the needles and was in no hurry to attack again, which meant the technique was very energy-consuming. To come forward and not take advantage of surprise. How arrogant! Commander Chong said. Commander Chong decided to tell Tang Yenmeng that he had amazing abilities and stated that he had never heard of him in the Tang clan. What difference does it make whether he heard it or not, replied Tang Yenmeng. After all, the one who passes away today has no need to know his name. According to Commander Chong, the young man was looking for his death, and since he was so impatient, he decided to destroy him. But Tang Yenmeng easily rejected Commander Chong's supreme power technique, surprising him. But is this really the maximum of his strength? Tang Yenmeng thought and decided to give Commander Chong another try. After Jiamchang, one of the 9 factions, fell to the Black Death Alliance, Zhang Jinbang willingly joined the alliance. On the very first day, Chan met the leader of the alliance. His technique of shaking the tops of his palms underwent changes. The leader of the alliance didn't like this name at all, and since he was going to do it, let the technology reach the sky. This is what the leader of the Black Death Alliance called the technique of the palm that shakes the heavens. Could it be that the technology given by the head of the alliance was surpassed by some puppy? Thought Commander Chan. Of all the fire poisons that contain the breath of the fire dragon, Furenho's poison is considered the most dangerous. If it is controlled by the aura of poisonous madness, then, like the chi of a sword that seeks to cut through everything in its path, the poisonous force will seek to permeate everything around it, poisoning it. Tang Yenmeng used the all-consuming flame skill to defeat the heaven-shaking palm technique. The power of the poison turned into flames, and Tang Yenmeng decided to call it the Poison Fire River. After finishing with Commander Chong, Tang Yenmeng decided to ask the others who were still itching to be burned alive. Tang Yenmeng explained that no one would leave there alive, so it was in their interests to die first. But suddenly Mak Inhu appeared and swore that neither on Mount Gandong nor in the whole world would he leave even ashes of Tang Yenmeng. Mak Inhu ordered the Charyun structure to immediately surround the enemy Tang Yenmeng and ask them to beware of poisons. Inhu also ordered to focus on exhausting Tang Yenmeng's forces, since he had already lost many students and allies. Nothing compares to the grief of losing a younger sibling, and their sacrifice will not be in vain. Charyun formation reminded Tang Yenmeng of his training days, when he created the crazy revolving line dance. Tang Yenmeng decided to try something new this time, and in doing so, he destroyed Mak Inghu's entire team. Mak Inghu didn't understand how he could have missed Tang Yenmeng's movements, and what was this, he thought. One of Mak Inghu's subordinates decided to avenge his brothers and attacked Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng, using the power of destruction, destroyed their swords without even touching them. The destruction technique shatters the swords, while the dispersion scatters the blade fragments, controlling the release of force. Within a certain area, Tang Yenmeng creates a rain of 10,000 heavenly flowers. Well, it might not be the greatest rain of 10,000 heavenly flowers, but for small enemies it's not bad at all. Tang Yenmeng decided to name his new technique Iron Shard Hail. Now that Mak Inhu's men had exhausted Tang Yenmeng's strength, he decided that he himself had to intervene. No matter what Tang Yenmeng's achievements were, Mak Inhu thought that he had no reason to be afraid. With their twin blades technique and the granted corner silent sword technique, Mak Inhu thought he could wipe out Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng repelled Mak Inhu's twin blades technique with just a short sword. Tang Yenmeng handles the sword and easily reads the next steps when using it. But Mak Inhu still didn't understand how it was possible that Tang Yenmeng could deal with the silent sword. Tang Yenmeng replied that the ball contained destructive chi, and he guessed that it was created with murderous intent. Managing such energy is not particularly difficult. Even Tang Yenmeng managed to cope with it only after becoming a master of the dual blades technique. The spy he eliminated a few hours ago used the same technique. Could he be from the Thursday sect? Yul Mook, thought Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng didn't know much about them, but he knew that they were under the Black Death Alliance. It is well known that the head of the alliance hones any martial arts of the allies so that they are individually suited to each one. This is why all sorts of people, rulers and peasants, entrust themselves to the alliance. Tang Yenmeng wanted to say that he was disappointed with Mak Inghu's insignificant technique. Anyone could handle such a technique, but he uses it against Tang Yenmeng. It seems that the alliance leader did not have much hope for Mak Inhu, Tang Yenmeng said. Tang Yenmeng said that he had done everything he could for the small fry Mak Inhu, and decided to show him everything he could do. For warriors who have achieved superiority, the length of the blade is of no importance. Mak Inhu couldn't believe his eyes. The power of the silent sword was different from ordinary swords, but it was still powerless against the flow of blades. She can handle sword chi so easily and even uses blade stream. This could only mean one thing. Tang Yenmeng had reached the final stage. Realizing this, Mak Inhu decided to flee. Only Tang Yenmeng understood that Mak Inhu could not escape from the competition area. However, as the heir of the Tang clan, Tang Yenmeng should finish off Mak Inhu in the family way. Mak Inhu still couldn't understand who in the Tang clan had raised such a monster. How could someone who had achieved the highest level of skill come from a dynasty that had fallen into decline? Mak Inhu hoped that the head of his alliance would not sit idly by. But suddenly Mak Inhu noticed something. Tiny rings were cutting through the trees like tofu, and at such a speed. Those rings couldn't be gotten rid of by simply running away, so Mak In-who knew he had to deal with them. In-who's sword cracked from the silent technique, but he knew that he couldn't just die like that. Mak In-who lost his arm, but he is still alive and the future is not lost for him. Could it be that even after such a complex technique, Mak In-who was not tired at all? Tang Yenmeng thought. Meanwhile, Mak In-who was shocked that the shurikens in the ground began to spin again. Mak In-who left behind everything he knew in the Tang clan and came to the Black Death Alliance to make a name for himself. And he couldn't even lay a finger on Tang Yenmen. What was he thinking? Looks like that's it, Tang Yenmeng thought. He was able to test the strength of his techniques quite well. Tang Yenmeng promised that when he became the clan leader, he would teach this to his subordinates. Without thinking twice, Tang Yenmeng decided to leave, because when he got out, there would still be a lot of unfinished business. Cornered Tang Yenmeng's mother, the Ziegel family, are trying to take over the Tang clan. Tang Yenmeng promised himself to sort this all out, no matter what it cost him, an eye for an eye. Tang Wenji was still trying to get to Tang Yenmeng and asked Ziegel Changsha if there was nothing that could be done. Ziegel Changsha apologized and explained that for the sake of fairness, it was impossible to interfere with the competition. Of course, this was all a lie, but until the deed was done, Ziegel Changsha knew he had to keep quiet. The entrance was completely sealed when they entered, so no one can leave the competition area alive, Ziegel stated. After those who escaped were captured and interrogated, it was confirmed that the invaders had broken in. Mak In-who of the Dark Moon Sword Sect and Commander Zhang Yanxiang, against 300 warriors, even number 28 would have little chance of surviving. It was a pity to waste Tang Yenmeng's talent, but he couldn't be allowed to interfere with Ziegel's plans. The future of the Tang clan will be the other candidates who did not participate in the competition. Before Ziegel could finish his story, Tang Yenmeng suddenly jumped out from behind him. All the guys from his team ran to hug him, because they were sure that he would not give up easily. Tang Yenmeng had said before that his team was the only one who could harm him in that competition. Ziegel Changshin didn't understand what all these 300 warriors were doing, and could they really not cope with this little boy? Ziegel Changshin simply couldn't believe, neither now nor then, how Tang Yenmeng was able to cut the phantom dome of the 7 castles. The dome placed over his squad and the one created for the competition area are no weaker in strength than the prison of earthly punishments. And usually even a master would fall for this, but Tang Yenmeng simply cut them down. Tang Yenmeng had dreamed of eliminating Ziegel Changsha on the spot right there, but until he became the young clan leader, he couldn't compromise himself. Tang Yenmeng apologized for disturbing warrior Wenji and asked him to take care of those who remained inside. Tang Wenji decided to ask Tang Yenmeng what had happened inside and what had happened to the others. But suddenly a crack appeared on the dome, and some light began to shine from the crack. The phantom dome of the 7 castles that surrounded the competition area began to collapse. Suddenly, all the people there began to see something in the fragments, and it seemed that this was what happened inside. The uniforms were different, but most of them were members of the Dark Moon Sword School, meaning that Mak In-who was indeed leading troops up the mountain. Could it be that Tang Yenmeng had killed all the people by himself? Tang Wenji thought. After all, even he couldn't handle more than 30 of them. Even Mak In-who fell victim. How could this happen? Tang Wenji and Ziegel thought. Tang Yenmeng explained that there were too many of them, and their numbers made them easy prey. Tang Yenmeng's level was already higher than expected of a young leader, Tang Wenji thought. Could the guy really have destroyed several hundred warriors by himself, the guys thought, and even the famous head of the Dark Moon Sword Sect? This means that Tang Yenmeng has already reached the highest level, and the title of young master belongs to him from the very beginning. Tang Chongil became a dead weight because of his broken arm, and Tang Yenmeng suddenly became so strong, and he couldn't understand how this happened. The scum that was beaten because he wasn't even capable of learning martial arts, how could he, how dare he, thought Tang Chongil. Tang Wenji announced that the competition was over and the only winner was number 28, Tang Yenmeng. Tang Wenji also invited anyone who wanted to challenge the result to come forward. No one walked out, which means that everything was unanimous and all procedures were followed fairly. Tang Wenji ordered all the warriors to gather before the victor, Tang Yenmeng. Finally, after many years of decline of the Tang clan, the winner of the Tang Yenmeng competition would become the new leader and restore the former greatness, Tang Wenji thought. Tang Wenji and 80 of Tang Yenmeng's warriors officially recognized him as the new master. He had barely become a young leader, and he was already treated like this, and should they really treat Tang Yenmeng politely now too? Tang Meyer thought, with such a level at such a young age, Tang Yenmeng will be able to develop even more throughout Sichuan. Finally, the Tang clan will regain its former honor and power, Tang Wenji thought. Tang Yenmeng knew what the people wanted and promised that he would not make them wait long. He asked them to trust him and wait. Tang Yenmeng seemed to have read everyone's thoughts and spoke with the weightiness befitting a master. The warriors acknowledged that Tang Yenmeng was the true leader of the Tang clan, and they were willing to follow him. Tang Yenmeng ordered everyone to get ready, as they were returning to the estate. Tan Chongil was unhappy that everything went to Tan Yenmeng and vowed to take revenge on the boy, even if he had to sell his soul to the demons. Meanwhile, Taeho from the Gandong sect arrived as soon as he heard about everything that was happening. He was immediately followed by Henso, who declared that now, with his new status as a master, Taeho must behave accordingly. Taeho told Hyunsu that he didn't feel anything, and isn't that strange, he thought. Henso knew it was impossible to sleep next to a mountain of bodies, and even he wanted to leave that place immediately. Were once the most powerful clan in Sichuan, and as far as Henson knew, there were less than 100 Tang clan members on Mount Gandong. Taeho was of the same opinion. Gandong was their faction's domain, and it would be worth informing them if something of this magnitude happened. Henso understood what Taeho wanted to say, but why were they avoiding them? Besides, the Tang clan had sent them gifts to hold the competition there. Taeho didn't know that the Tang clan's hidden weapon mastery was so high. After all, to kill so many people single-handedly was amazing. Henso was shocked. Did Taeho really mean to say that all this was the work of one person? But Taeho's eyes couldn't deceive him. Most people only had marks from thin needles. Since the needles are invisible, they can be easily removed and used again. Since people did not even have time to take out their weapons, it seems that every second counted. There are hardly a few masters of such level, and Taeho realized for himself that he had to meet him, and decided to go to Sichuan. But first, Taeho suggested that Henso return to the sect's estate, since they needed to warn the leader about their plans. To the south of the Gandong sect was the Black Death Alliance, and to the west was the demon cult. Gandong sect is in dire straits, and their master is going to find the leader of the Tang clan who caused this disaster to prove his innocence. The Tang clan situation is probably not much different from the Gandong clan, and the leader wants to let the Tang family deal with the alliance and then destroy the demon cult. The Tang clan had long been in decline, and Henso didn't know if his master's plan would work. Henso hoped he wouldn't have to resort to the ball demon taming technique. Meanwhile, they decided to tell the great Tang Sokchong, the third elder, about what was happening. Tan Sukchun was told that the warriors of Bon Wai's squad had returned with the members, and it seemed like everything was over sooner than they thought. What did Tan Siakchon answer? Yenyang with her skills and Varenho, one of the 10 poisons, it probably wasn't difficult to win, the elder said. But the servant explained that the young lady Tang Yenmeng was not among those who returned. The guards at the entrance were also curious about who won the competition, Tang Qinling, the disciple of the great elder, or the granddaughter of the third elder. It was said that the granddaughter of the third elder, after her face was disfigured, began to train like crazy. But whoever it was, the boys hoped that everyone would return safely. In the distance, the guards saw the symbol of the Tang clan and the Bonvi warriors, which meant that the competitors had returned. The Tang people did not expect the competition to end so soon, as time flew by for them. All the children were safely met by their parents. They were very worried, because everyone had already heard that some children had passed away. Some parents did not see their children, which meant that they were not alive. Seeing those parents, Tang Yenmeng thought about his mother, because she was probably worried about him too. Tang Yenmeng also began to worry that his mother would not recognize him when he returned home. Yenmeng's face as he thought about how surprised his mother would be. Tan Yuri distracted the boy from his thoughts and showed that the general staff was moving towards them, and her father was among them. Could it be that Tang Yuri is already begging for a cushy job for his father? Tang Yenmeng thought. Tang Yuri replied to Tang Yenmeng. Of course, such an opportunity should not be missed under any circumstances. Tang Yenmeng understood that those who were connected to the elders could become a hindrance when he came to power, so he should acquire people who were loyal to him. Tang Yenmeng understood that he should also take care of Mira and Izong, because, as far as the guy remembered, Izong was connected with the Temple of Medicine. The commander of the Tang clan general staff, Tang Kism, praised the Banhui warriors and the Zegal clan for a job well done. The chief of general staff also said that he would never forget how much the Zegal clan had done for the Tang family. The commander of the general staff couldn't even imagine what they would do without the Zegal clan's 7 castles Phantom Dome. Zegal clan, the commander of the general staff, sent the participants to the competition with peace of mind. Tang Kism suggested that everyone go to the elder's house to summarize the results, and the Banhui warriors can be free and go to rest, the commander of the general staff said. Tan Wonji apologized and introduced himself, explaining that he was temporarily serving as Banhui's acting commander. Tang Wonji said that they would not go to the elder's house, because the conditions of the competition mentioned the Hall of Secret Weapons and Poisons, and wouldn't it be better to go there instead of the elder's house? The commander of the general staff got angry. Is some detachment commander really going to tell him what is best? The chief of general staff ordered immediate disbandment, otherwise Tan Wonji would be punished for insubordination. It is not by submission that one is forbidden to object to the will of the elders. This was to be expected, but this was too much, Tang Wonji thought. But who could have more strength than the young leader? Tang Yenmeng said. Shocked by the answer, the general staff commander decided to find out who the impudent guy was. To which Tang Yenmeng replied that he was the winner of the competition. Tan Kism immediately decided to report to Tan Sokchong that the winner of the competition was Tan Enmeng. Tan Siakchan couldn't believe his ears. It was impossible. How could this brat defeat Yenyang? The elder thought. The poison of Quarinho shouldn't have left even ashes of the guy. Apparently Enon couldn't use it. Could it be that his disciple Tang Qinling also lost to Tang Yenmeng? Thought Elder Tang Sokchong. The elder acknowledged Qinlin's qualities and hard work, although he did not believe that the title of young leader would belong to him. The elders saw Tang Yenmeng before the tournament started and immediately thought that Qinling would not defeat him. Enmeng could have overcome the gap in skills in 3 years, the elder thought. The second elder, Tang Mengxin, stated that they had decided to forget what happened during the war, but at least here they had to get to the truth. The fourth elder, Tang Jiren, also agreed, since Tang Enmeng couldn't defeat all the strongest candidates. Since everyone had questions, there should be answers to them, said Elder Tan Sokshan and asked where Tan Yenmen was. Tan Kism explained to the elder that the boy had been invited into the house, but he stated that only the clan leader could give orders to the young heir. Even if the head seat is vacant, the Council of Elders cannot issue orders in his name. Tang Kism knew that if Tang Yenmeng, who held a grudge against the elders, became the head of the clan, it would be the end for him. He told Tang Yenmeng that he could not go against the will of the elders. Angered, Tang Yenmeng declared that no matter what those idle elders thought, they would go to the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons as stated in the tournament conditions. Tang Yenmeng ordered Tang Chisu to convey to the elders everything he had previously said, since their power had come to an end. The senior elders were shocked by such impudence and could not believe that Tang Yenmeng said all this. How dare this kid, the elder thought, even the poisonous phoenix was a reed in their presence. After rethinking everything, Tang Siakchan thought that this could play into their hands, since Tang Yanmeng had not yet been recognized as the young clan leader. Therefore, the elder decided to question his attitude and eliminate him by taking all the elders, rather than moving to the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons. Tang Sokshan ordered all the great elder guards to prepare to move to the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons. The elder ordered the Blue Dragon commander and his squad to follow them. Tang Yenmeng dared to challenge the authority of the Council of Elders, so they decided to bring him back down to earth. Meanwhile, Tang Yenmeng was telling about how he had won the competition for the position of young leader to the great leader of the Dark King clan, Tang Chonghui. Tan Chonghui didn't believe what the boy said for a long time, but even when Tan Enmeng was little, he felt something unusual about him. But now this feeling was even embarrassing to compare with the past. Tan Chonghui could not even imagine how happy his sister would be. The great Poison King clan chief, Tang Jihek, Tang Munching's father, also couldn't believe that Tang Enmeng had won the competition. Before the competition began, Tang Jihek cursed Tang Yenmeng and promised that when it was all over, he and his mother would pay for his son's broken arm. Tang Yenmeng remembered Tang Jihek's words very well. Just as he said, not even 4 years had passed. but he wouldn't make anyone pay. Tang Yenmeng warned the man to watch everything he said and did in the Tang clan. Could it be that Tang Yenmeng really is the son of the poison phoenix? Tang Wanjin thought. It all happened because the demon lord encroached on their mistress, the poison phoenix. The warriors of the Tang family fought bravely, sparing no effort, and the forces of both sides were equal. The demon lord understood that the Tang clan was resisting more strongly than they thought. They broke through with a fight to the death, taking a defensive position. The guys decided to ask the elders for reinforcements, but they did not state that if they risked their people, the Tang clan would not be able to avoid being born, and they were refused. If the elders had sent their people, the losses could have been avoided, but still, when it was all over, they shamelessly blamed the poison phoenix for everything. The elders stated that the girl had destroyed the family, because in their opinion, she should have submitted to the demon lord and avoided the catastrophe. She could not object, and despite the injustice, she accepted the abdication in order to protect her child. Tang Wanjin believed that the soldiers also understood who their new master was. Those of them who failed to fulfill their duty were then given another chance. Suddenly, Tan Yenmeng and Tan Chokwi heard a terrible noise in the street and decided to find out what was going on there. When they went outside, they saw an elder shouting. Did the Bonvi warriors really think they could get away with disobeying the elders? The elders showed up as the young master expected. Tang Wanji didn't think that the elders would mobilize all their forces. Did they feel that their position was under threat? The great elder Tang Sokshan insisted on one thing, that Tang Yenmeng be brought to him. Tang Yenmeng himself went out to the great elders together with Tang Chokwi, who was surprised to see the elders. Could it be that Tang Yenmeng was not in the elders' house, the boy thought. How dare Tang Yenmeng call himself the leader who should lead their clan without first gaining the approval of the elders, Tang Sokchong said. Tang Yenmeng replied that he had proven his right by winning the tournament, and now he was confirming his justice according to the conditions in the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons. Yenmeng's bad temper, Tang Mengshin said, and Tang Jiren asked how he addressed the elders. Tan Sukchong explained to Tan Yongmeng that if he wanted to live, he would have to tell in detail what happened in the solo trial. They said that everything that happens in the tournament is secret, but how easy it is to break the clan's laws, Tang Yenmeng said. Tan Siakchan explained that the head of the Zeegal house told them about the interference of Mak Inhu of the Dark Moon Sword sect. What kind of private competition can we talk about when outsiders interfere? Tang Yenmeng explained that Tang Qingling and Tang Yening had eliminated the other participants, and he had eliminated the two of them, ending the competition. Outsiders intervened afterward, so in terms of fairness, in the guy's opinion, everything was fine. The elder couldn't believe his ears, but Tang Yenmeng said that if they wanted to confirm this, they had to go to Mount Gandong. The boys' bodies should still be there if the Gandong clan hadn't removed them. Enraged by what he heard, Great Elder Tang Sokchong decided to strike at Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng decided to prove to the Great Elder Tang Sokchong that his granddaughter was no longer alive. The elder couldn't believe that the boy had repelled his demon-killing poison with one hand. One touch of this toxin would deprive one of one's sight and hearing, and yet Tang Yenmeng blocked it so easily. Yenmeng's internal strength surpassed that of an elder, honed through decades of training. Tang Yenmeng handed something to the elder. Seeing the bottle of poison, Tang Sokchong decided to ask where he got it from. Of course, nothing. If it were an ordinary poison, Tang Yenmeng said, but it is one of the 10 poisons of the Tang family. Tang Wanjin couldn't believe his ears. Could it really be that there was the poison of the fire dragon Warengo? Tang Yenmeng said that he felt an incredible fiery energy when the bottle burst into flames. Isn't it the third elder himself who controls the 10 poisons? Tang Yenmeng asked warrior Banwi. Is it permissible to use the valuable 10 poisons of the Tang family for personal purposes? The boy asked the warrior. Warrior Banvi replied. No way. After all, as far as they know, these poisons are so dangerous that even an experienced warrior cannot cope with them. And since the method of production has been lost, and there are not many poisons left, their value is even higher. In the Tang clan, these 10 poisons are valued more than any gold or silver, and using them for personal purposes is punishable by death. Although Tan Siakchan holds the title of elder, he cannot bypass the clan's laws, but at least Tan Enman promised that he would leave with honor, because his granddaughter is already waiting for him in the next life. Tang Yenmeng stated that the elders were just the rotten roots of their clan, and it was not up to them to decide who should be the leader, since the boy himself decided where his place was. This is a coup, Tang Wenjin thought. No one could stand before the elders so fearlessly. The fate of the Tang clan could change here and now. Tang Yenmeng also decided to ask the great elder Tang Sokchong if he knew that his disciple was trying to destroy their clan. The elder did not believe the boy's words, to which he replied that his disciple was a spy for the Dark Moon Sword sect. This is nonsense, said great elder Tang Sokchong, and said that Tang Yenmeng is trying to slander him. Absolutely everyone knew that the Dark Moon Sword sect had invaded the competition territory. The great elder asked for evidence that his disciple Qinling was in collusion with the Dark Moon. Tang Yenmeng once wanted to present evidence by inviting the manager's son. The boy asked him to tell him everything. That guy was the only witness and could confirm that Qinlan was a spy. The guy showed his scars and said that he got them during a solo test in a fight with Qinlan, until Tang Yenmeng came to the rescue. People could see everything themselves, because such wounds are not inflicted by poisons and hidden techniques, because he fought with a blade. Tang Munchong didn't realize it at first, but he thought that he was using the twin blades technique. Tan Xiaochan stated that this was just the boy's guess, but Tan Jiren interrupted him and said that he had once observed Mak Inhu using a sword from afar, and the bodies of most of those he attacked were horribly mutilated, but the wounds on the survivors were very similar to the wounds of that young man. That's right, Tang Munchong said, and besides, before he destroyed the guy, he confessed that he was a spy and called himself Mak Ingle. Wasn't that the name of that abandoned bastard, the child born to the servant girl? The elder thought. And could it really be true? Tang Yenmeng wanted to bring the guy in as a witness, but he didn't think he would come forward himself. The boy replied that Tang Yenmeng had saved his life, and he had merely repaid his debt. The great elder understood that if this continued, he would be finished. Grand Elder Tang Sokchong ordered the guards to immediately detain Tang Yonman. Not a single squad lifted a finger for the great elder. Tang Yonman said not to fuss, because now that the evidence was known, the elder would only disgrace himself. Tang Yenmeng explained that in the position of a great elder, I alone did not know anything and I would not get away with it. If Tang Qingling had become the young leader, their Tang would have fallen into the hands of the Dark Moon Sword sect, and the elder wants to say that he simply didn't know. Tang Yenmeng declared that the great elder would be suspected of harboring a spy. The penalty for such a thing would be the destruction of Dantian and a ban on practicing martial arts. But since there were no accusations of internal communication, Tang Yenmeng decided to get off with a warning. The great elder thought that Tang Yenmeng had not noticed him taking out the poison while pretending to press on the wound. Another of the 10 poisons is the poison Muhen, literally an invisible, intangible poison that has no color, smell or taste. As the name suggests, the victim is unaware that they have been poisoned until symptoms begin to appear. Although I am not as strong as the real perfect Muhen from the great elder, it is his own composition, which took half his life to make. And no matter how strong Tang Yenmeng was, he definitely couldn't cope with one of the 10 poisons, the Muhen poison. The great elder decided to destroy the guy in such a way that he would not even understand what it was. Tang Yenmeng realized that the great elder was planning something and cut off his second arm. The other elders began to be indignant, because the young leader promised to spare the great elder. Is the guy worthy of calling himself a young leader after this? But suddenly the elders noticed that something had fallen out of the great elder's hand, and it looked like it was poison. Walking up to the great elder, Tang Yenmeng asked, "Did you really try to poison me on the sly?" If so, it was a pitiful attempt. Great Elder Tang Sokchong began to beg the young leader Tang Yenmeng to forgive him. But an attempt to kill the young leader and, as a result, the destruction of the clan is considered treason and is punishable by death. No one is above the clan's laws. Anyone who disregards the law because of their position will be punished personally by Tang Yenmeng. Yenmeng promised everyone their one thing. The Tang family members will be able to live peacefully in Sichuan land, neither the Death Alliance nor the demon cult will be able to threaten them. Therefore, Tang Yenmeng decided to ask the people, not the elders, whether they would recognize him as the young head of the Tang clan. At Tang Jiha's house, Tang Yenmeng's mother learned that her son had won the tournament for the position of young chief. The boy's mother was also told how he had condemned the elders for their unbelief and that all those who were there at the time recognized him as their master. How strong their son had grown, the mother thought. If the boy's father were alive and heard this news, he would also be happy. Tang Yenmeng wanted to immediately run to his mother and tell her that he was alive, but he still had a lot of work to do. By order of Tang Yenmeng, all future events would be held in the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons, and all major decisions would only be made with his approval. Now the real power would be concentrated in this hall, not in the House of Elders. They clearly didn't like it, but no one objected. The fifth elder noticed that the young leader had a strong character, but he understood that he was still young, and suggested that he appoint an assistant until he grew older. The fifth elder was the only one who expressed concern. They didn't want to lose their position, so they were betting on youth and inexperience. Tang Yenmeng said that he would appoint an assistant for himself later, and if there were no more questions, the guy decided to complete the transfer of power. Tang Yenmeng will not dance to the elder's tune. Moreover, as the investigation showed, the third elder was indeed abusing the poison Varenho. This raised doubts about the competence of the elder's house, and the poisons also came under the control of the Hidden Weapons and Poisons Hall. The elders, having lost some of their authority, retained their direct subordination units because they were of no particular interest to Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng explained to the elders that they would be able to manage their troops as before, but they would have to pay for all the expenses for their upkeep. From the treasury, Tang Yenmeng decided that he would not allocate any more money. No one wanted to take responsibility for the Great Elder's Guard and the Third Blue Dragon Squad, who had lost their masters. The squads were united under the general name of Howen and assigned to the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons. Their duties now include general escort, and their pay is the same as that of ordinary soldiers. Some were unhappy with this state of affairs, but it was not difficult to shut them up. Tang Yenmeng ordered them to forget about special privileges and be grateful for what they had. Tang Yenmeng explained that the boys would be severely punished if they neglected their duties or caused any clashes. One day, Tang Yenmeng decided to invite the Ziegel clan. Who would have thought that the boy would destroy the elders by focusing on strength and duty, without considering it necessary to inform the elders of the result of the competition, Ziegel Changsha thought. Nobody knew what happened at the tournament, but it was still very frightening. Tang Yenmeng explained that he had been busy with a lot of things lately, so he had been neglecting their clan. Therefore, the guy wanted to ask them for a favor, because as far as Tang Yenmeng understood, the Ziegel clan's dome defense was quite good. Tang Yenmeng meant was whether she was able to hold off uninvited guests, not counting him of course. Later, Tang Yenmeng stated that he would like to install this protection on his own to prevent the alliance from getting closer. Ziegel Changshin apologized and explained that this method of protection could not be established without the consent of the head of Ziegel. After all, to create this protection, inherited artifacts are needed. And to maintain the defense, several masters are needed, which Ziegel cannot afford. Tang Yenmeng destroyed them all, leaving only one, Ziegel Changsha, who turned around, was shocked and did not understand anything. Tang Yenmeng explained that he knew about their deal with Tang Yening and stated that he could have prevented the Dark Moon Sword sect's invasion, but he did not do so. If Ziegel thought that Tang Yenmeng wouldn't know about this, he was wrong. The guy asked to set up something like Ziegel family protection in the Tang clan's main inner garden, and he would forget about everything. Tang Yenmeng asked Ziegel if he had heard of family mottos, and he revealed that the Tang clan motto was repay an insult tenfold. And it was for this reason that the elders met their death at the hands of Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng said that he would count to 3. If Ziegel did not agree, the boy would personally go to the Ziegel clan, and all responsibility would fall on him. Ziegel Changsha agreed to do everything, but tearfully asked not to touch his family. Tang Yenmeng promised not to touch the man's family and was confident that they would quickly complete the task. Tang Yenmeng decided to invite his friends over. He wanted to invite them earlier, but he was surprisingly busy, so he called them a little later. Tan Meyer decided to ask what their new master leader wanted. This made Tang Yenmeng laugh. Why such formalities? He asked, since they were alone there and could behave as usual. Since that was the case, the guys decided to get comfortable, and they were still curious about why Tang Yenmeng had called them. Tang Yenmeng told one of the girls that he had appointed her father, Tang Yuri, as commander-in-chief. She couldn't believe her ears. Tang Yenmeng noticed that the girl said that her father was very capable. So, one must seize one's chance, the boy said. The girl asked the guy if he was sure it was a good decision, because many were probably against it. But it wasn't hard for the guy to shut up those who were against it. But if the girl's father tries to take advantage of their friendship, neglects his work or abuses his authority, he will find himself in trouble. Well, since it came to that, the girl allowed the guy to help her father settle into his new place and thanked Tang Yenmeng. Tang Yenmeng also inquired about how Tang Meyer and Tang Yijong were doing. Tang Yenmeng explained that there were many talented people who had no connection with the elders, causing their abilities to be wasted, and the guy wanted to take them under his wing. Tang Yenmeng cast his gaze on Yijong, since he was related to the Medicine King clan, and the boy decided to inquire about how things were going there. In fact, Tang Yijong was hesitant about telling Tang Yenmeng about this, but it was between him and the boy. Tang Yijong admitted that the people who poisoned Tang Yenmeng's father were the Medicine King's plan. Suddenly, Tang Yuri jumped up from her seat and decided to attack the guy, saying how dare they attack the new head's family. But despite everything, the young leader Tang Yenmeng immediately stopped Tang Yuri and asked her to wait. The Medicine King clan's estate is such a closed place that even the elders' hands cannot reach there. All research into medicines and poisons is carried out there, and prosperity is maintained through medical care and the sale of medicinal products. It was to the Medicine King clan that the Tang family owed the fact that they were able to survive the attack of the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord, because the Medicine King clan earned money to support the Tang clan. Tang Yijong's grandfather was their leader, and when the grandfather was the leader of the family, a certain person began to visit him every day. That person was Tang Yenmeng's father Tang Weiren, real name Ha Weiren. After the Demon Lord's attack, many were unhappy with Poison Phoenix, but he always protected her from evil tongues. Tang Yenmeng's father was an ordinary student with no inner strength, and the consequences that resulted in fights and conflicts were felt. If an ordinary person is attacked using internal force, he will not be able to redistribute the energy and will suffer deep internal wounds. Yet Tang Yijong's father resisted no matter what, but things only got worse. At that time, there was a person who was the assistant of the head of the Medicine King clan. His name was Tang Il, and he had a serious conflict with him. Tang Yenmeng's father had caught him gossiping unspeakably about the Poison Phoenix, and it was obvious that the assistant leader was the one at fault. But Tang Yenmeng's father, without hesitation, tried to use his martial arts skills to win the argument, and it was only when Yijong's grandfather intervened that he was stopped. Because of this, Tang Il was excluded from the list of candidates for the position of the next head. Yenmeng's father. He destroyed him and began to overthrow the clan's power, and even Yijong's grandfather was poisoned by his poison and sent to prison. After the poisoning, Yizong's grandfather was not in his right mind, so even if he told someone, no one would believe him. Then Tang Yijong gave in to the competition. In 3 years of competition, no one could destroy him because he knew all the ins and outs. Tang Yijong really wanted to see his grandfather again, but he was too afraid to go back there. Tang Yenmeng asked Yijong why that Tang Il had left his grandfather alive. Shit, it would have been much easier to kill him to silence him. If Yizong understands correctly, somewhere in the clan's territory there is an inner sanctuary that even the elders do not know about. It contains the pearl of a mythical creature living in lava, the pearl of the Millennium Fire Carp. According to legend, about 100 years ago, the young head of the Palace of the Fire Sun received the pearl of the Millennium Fire Carp. She gained tremendous power and ascended to Huajian, and although the Palace of the Sun was wiped off the earth by the demons of heavenly radiance, the pearl of such a creature undoubtedly contains a strong poison. To take it without releasing the poison is certain death, and an inept attempt to get rid of the poison can reduce its effectiveness. So, only Yijong's grandfather could neutralize the poison from the pearl without losing its activity, Tang Yenmeng thought. That's what Yijong said. Tang Il's goal is to obtain the pearl and ascend to Huajian, after which he wants to leave with his accomplices from the Tang clan and create his own sect. This is a real rebellion, Tang Yenmeng thought. The plan was idiotic, because even if you get the pearl, you won't be able to reach Huajian without enlightenment. Tang Yenmeng turned to Yijong and stated that in the 3 years they had spent together, he had never even thought of anything like this. He didn't show anything, always laughing next to the guys, as if everything was fine, Tang Yanmeng thought. Tang Yanmeng thanked Yizhong for everything, because it must be difficult for him to talk about such things, and Tang Yanmeng was sincerely grateful for the revelation. Tang Yanmeng only had one question. If he got rid of the Medicine King clan, his grandfather, would the boys' clan be able to function as before? If it was just a matter of poisoning your grandfather, Tang Yanmeng said he could do something, so he needed Yizhong's answer. Yizhong replied that he could, and added that he didn't think he would be inferior to Tang Il in terms of strength now, and if they recruited capable healers, he would be able to train them. Tang Meyer and Tang Yanmeng were willing to listen once they had dealt with the Medicine King clan. Tang Yanmeng said that they were heading there right away, but Yizhong asked if he was sure he wanted to go there right now. After all, he hadn't even had time to visit his mother since he came back. Tang Yanmeng declared that as a young leader, he could not ignore the upcoming rebellion. Furthermore, he would not stand aside after learning of the suffering his friend had endured. Tang Yanmeng declared that he would destroy all those who encroached on the Medicine King clan. Meanwhile, the Medicine King clan learned that Tan Viren's son had become the young leader and realized that things were really bad for them. But it all happened before he was born, and the boy cannot know what he did to his father, thought Tan Il. He was even more worried about Tang Yizhong, who still hadn't returned. Did he really just abandon his grandfather? Tan Il thought that getting rid of the guy's grandfather would be easy, but the pearl is what really matters. It is to completely absorb its energy and reach Huajian. Even if that damn old man came to his senses, he wouldn't say a word, which would greatly confuse his plans, Tang Il thought. Tan Il had already thought to neutralize the poison himself, but no, one mistake, and the pearl was lost. But suddenly the servant opened the door and announced that the young leader had come to see Tang Il. Young leader Tang Yanmeng was preparing to carry out the massacre, while the boys were looking for Tang Yizhong's grandfather. The boys searched everywhere, but grandfather Tang Yizhong was nowhere to be found, and he ordered the elders to tell where they had taken him. But they said that they themselves did not know where the man was. Then Tang Yanmeng ordered Wenjin to show them that they should not deceive the leader. Tang Yanmeng said that they could pretend as much as they wanted, but he would still make them talk. When the competition began, the current leader ordered the former leader to be locked up in a cell, one of the elders said. Yizhong couldn't believe his ears, because this was an isolation ward for those suspected of various diseases. But the cold and dampness that lived there only worsened the condition of the people, so he was locked there. Tan Yanmeng said that he and Yizhong were going to the punishment cell, and the guy ordered Banhui's squad to restore order and wait for them at the entrance. The room was quite deep, and it looked like it was all cut into a cave. It was not for nothing that this place deserved to be called a punishment cell. The boys approached the entrance to the punishment cell, and Yizhong hoped that his grandfather was okay. What if it was already too late, the boy thought. After walking a little further, the boys found grandfather Tan Yizhong. Yizhong immediately rushed to the bars, saying that he had come to save him. But suddenly Tang Yanmeng asked the boy to move away from the bars and, thanks to his skills, cut them in a matter of seconds. Seeing his grandfather in such a state, Yizhong couldn't understand how it was possible, because he wasn't like that when the boy went to the competition. And those people probably poisoned him with sangan. Tang Yanmeng grabbed the boy's shoulder and asked him to calm down, since they were there to save his grandfather, and asked if those people could have used anything else besides this. Yizhong replied that they could also have used the poison Wezongdan. This poison attacks the brain and does not kill the victims, but makes them idiots. Although the poison is not strong, it spreads throughout the body and penetrates the brain, so antidotes are useless, and without intervention in the early stages nothing can be done. Tang Yanmeng asked Yizhong to hold his grandfather back, because if his body was reminded of the internal energy, it would absorb all the poison in the body. Tang Yanmeng's poison madness had absorbed extreme poisons many times, and it would be better to just absorb the poison so as not to harm grandpa's body. Tang Yizhong noticed that his grandfather was getting better, as he began to breathe again and his complexion seemed to have improved. When he woke up, the grandfather did not understand at all where he was, but he recognized his grandson Yizhong and he became interested in who was next to him. The boys explained to their grandfather that Tang Yanmeng was the current young leader and also Tang Weiren's son. Tang Yanmeng also explained that his grandson told him how he took care of his father. Fate is truly an amazing thing, thought the grandfather, because he was saved by a child who, due to his fault, did not even know his own father. If only Viren could see how his and Jai's son had grown up. It was a pity he hadn't lived to see this moment, the old man thought, and hoped that this news would reach the heavens. The boy's grandfather decided to ask the head of Tang Yenmeng if he would allow him to serve. To which he replied that he had come there to find a place for him and Izong. Tang Yenmeng invited his grandfather to go with him, since his people had been waiting for him for a long time. Il in front of them, who was furious and asking everyone how they could treat the people of the Medicine King clan like that. Tang Yenmeng replied to Tang Ilu that he himself saw where they had just come from, and he was still trying to play dumb. Tang Yenmeng asked Grandpa Yizhong if he had anything he wanted to say to Tang Ilu in the end. But without waiting for the old man's words, Tang Il scattered all his subordinates and began to run away, saying that he would die if he stayed there. Yenmeng's poisonous needle, and he realized that he could not move, because it was the heart-flaming poison created by Yizhong. Yenmeng's opinion, Zhong was worthy of taking Tang Il's place, and as for the remaining ones, Tang Yenmeng gave the Banhui troop to the Medicine King clan. Rumors that the Medicine King clan had been destroyed quickly spread among the people. The boy's grandfather asked Tang Yenmeng if he wanted to take the pearl, as he couldn't let it fall into the wrong hands. The man asked the boy to give him a few days to neutralize the poison. Tang Yenmeng thanked him, but said he would take her as is. The man warned the boy that if he didn't use it right away, it would be better to leave it where it was. But the boy replied that he would use it. Its poison is so strong that it can be seen with the naked eye, and Tang Yenmeng will definitely not let such a valuable thing go to waste. This pearl contained the strongest fire poison, as expected from a spirit living in lava, but it was nothing compared to the flame of the fire dragon. If it were given to an ordinary person in its pure form, the poison would simply burn him. The power was unreal. Tang Yenmeng had never realized the full power of the 10 poisons, but he needed to learn more about them. The boy knocked on his mother's door and asked if he could come in. Fun, of course he could, she replied. Tan Enman's mother missed him very much and said that she was very lucky to have her son. Tang Yenmeng explained that the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons used to be the family mansion, so his mother was now at home where she should have been. The boy's mother was still beautiful, but all this time, how worried she had been, Tang Yenmeng thought. Mom pounced on Tang Yenmeng with words of gratitude. She was grateful to him for returning to her. In his previous life, Tang Yenmeng was only concerned with regrets in the face of his impending death, because when he reached the top, he had no one to share his joy with. The guy's past life was full of regrets, but he didn't want to allow that to happen in this life. Tang Yenmeng wondered if his mother had seen Bonvi's squad. She replied that of course, they had come to help her move in the morning, and she knew each of them. The mother, seeing the box in her son's hand, decided to ask Enman what was in that box. Tang Enman explained to his mother that he had brought something for her, and after opening the box, the woman could not believe her eyes for a long time. There was the Millennium Fire Carp Pearl, and the boy was sure that his mother knew what to do with it. The mother explained to her son that it was he, as the young leader, who should take it, but he still insisted that he brought it for her. Tang Yenmeng asked his mother to give him her hand, and after handing her the pearl, he explained that he could no longer rise up. After what she saw, the woman could not believe that her son had already reached Huajian. Just think, her son has already reached Huajian, but if the enemies know about it, they will attack the clan, the woman thought. Tang Yenmeng wanted his mother to live a long and happy life for the sake of his father's memory, and asked her to be by his side while he was still growing up. The pearl's effect gradually dissipated, and Tang Yenmeng asked his mother to hurry up. Well, what is she thinking about? After all, her child has reached Huajian, and if he is in danger, the mother must be able to protect him. The woman realized that her son was right and she should not refuse her gift, but she also decided to tell her son what she was called in her youth. The woman told her son that in her youth she was called the main beauty of Sichuan and the poisonous phoenix. Tang Yenmeng remembered that Poison Phoenix was the title of the most outstanding person in the clan. The boy's mother admitted that she hadn't seen her son so surprised in a long time. The boy's mother was sure that she, of course, could not compete with her son, but her strength was no less impressive. After increasing her strength and absorbing the pearl, Tang Yenmeng's mother began cultivating herself. Tang Yenmeng was extremely surprised. Mom hid her powers from him. But she developed her powers herself, and the guy would never have thought of such a thing. A master who has mastered Huajian is able to detect the slightest movements of internal energy, so there was no point in hiding his powers. But Mom still managed to hide her powers from Tang and Meng, because that's why she's the poisonous phoenix. She had almost reached the stage of releasing power, and now, having reached the peak, she was preparing to absorb the power from the pearl. Maybe Tang Yenmeng's mother can also surpass the limit. But then she will reach a critical point. The method of absorbing the power of the pearl is surprisingly simple. You need to slowly release its energy and take it into your body. After this, the energy must be subjugated and the process repeated until it is all absorbed. But would a woman be able to absorb so much energy? After all, even at that moment the effect was slowly dissipating. The woman began to think about what she should do, because he would disappear completely before she had time to absorb even half of him. Tang Yenmeng placed his hand on his mother's shoulder and explained that enlightenment could not be achieved by just thinking about it. Tang Yenmeng explained to his mother that she needed to observe her surroundings, analyze them, and imitate them, because this was the path to enlightenment. Tang Yenmeng decided to help his mother a little, his energy merging with the energy of the pearl. This is the Tang clan's poisonous azure radiance heart technique. Inner strength is energy, it can be anything, and a woman does not have to subdue it little by little. All that was needed was to give it a familiar form to absorb it, and there was no need to go through the process of self-improvement. The woman increasingly recognized how lucky she was to have her son. The boys managed to reach the summit with some difficulty, and Tang Yenmeng's mother reached Huajian. Tang Yenmeng had gathered everyone in the Hall of Hidden Weapons and Poisons early in the morning. The head of the Poison King clan, Tang Zihek, was not happy about this. Everyone began to ask Tan Chakwi where their young leader was, since they had been pulled along by his order, forced to wait. Suddenly, it was announced that the young leader had arrived. Tang Yenmeng thanked everyone for gathering so early. Tang Yenmeng explained that he had gathered everyone in the Hidden Weapons Hall to discuss an important matter. Tang Yenmeng remembered that the fifth elder had proposed choosing a regent who would lead the affairs until the boy reached the age of ruling. That's right, the fifth elder replied and immediately asked which of the elders Tang Yenmeng planned to entrust this to. Tang Yenmeng didn't understand why the elder thought that the boy would entrust this matter to the elders. Tang Yenmeng knew that there was no one more suitable for this role than Tang Chiha, the poison phoenix who had been accused of being responsible for the Heavenly Radiance Demon's invasion and stripped of her title as leader by the elders 10 years ago. Tang Chiha, aka the poisonous phoenix, was reborn from the ashes and appeared before all the elders. The night before the regent's announcement, Tang Chiha was pleased to realize that she had reached Huajian. But the young head's mother could not get used to the smell of miasmas leaving her body, and the servants laughed at her constantly. By the way, to show her power, the mother of the young head did not know how to do so yet, but that would come with time. Upon reaching Huajian, the woman will be able to truly understand her son Enman, for he has already achieved the skill of Huajian. The current ruler of Sichuan, the head of the alliance, is said to have reached Huajian by going against all agreements, but what happened during the competition? So many years had passed and Tang Chiha thought she would have something to discuss with her son. Tang Enman sincerely congratulated his mom on reaching the top of Huajian, to which she replied that it was all thanks to him and asked to sit next to him. Tang Chiha decided to ask her son Tang Enman how he had reached Huajian. The woman still couldn't believe that her son had reached such a level at such a young age. Tang Enman realized that it wasn't just curiosity, but should he tell his mom about it? It's not easy to believe that one can gain enlightenment through past life memories. So the guy decided to explain everything through the events at the competition. Surely mom must have heard that the third elder used one of the 10 poisons for selfish purposes. Tang Enman drank this Warenho poison, and although he was poisoned by one of the 10 poisons, during his battle with Tang Enman, he developed the ability to resist poisons and ascended to Huajian. Tang Enman was very glad that his mom understood everything quite quickly. But Tang Chiha had another question. She had heard from the servant helping her take a bath that the Medicine King's clan had been destroyed. The woman explained that it was better to be honest about it, because it involved the boy's father too. Initially, the boy's mother had some doubts, but now she realized that her son must have had a hard time too. Tang Chiha turned to her son and told him that she would have a request for him, and he was willing to listen to his mother. Tang Chiha has been living in fear for a long time, afraid of losing her husband and her only child, and now she no longer wants to sit still. If Tang Enman allows it, his mom will make sure no one gets in his way. No one in the audience could believe that Poison Phoenix was standing in front of them. Tang Yenmen ordered the entire hall to welcome her, for from now on, his mother Tang Chiha would become the new head of the Sichuan Tang clan. Lady Tang Chiha was grateful to everyone gathered, and although she was named as the main person in charge, in reality, she would only handle the affairs until the young head came of age. And on behalf of Tang Enman, Tang Chiha will be building a new foundation for the shattered Tang clan. Tang Chiha, without thinking for long, chose to start their morning meeting with an agenda. Tang Chiha's approach was truly unorthodox, for even the Medicine King clan's name had been erased and replaced with Medicine Temple. Elder Tang Kale became the head of the Medicine Temple, and Tang Yizhong became his deputy. Yuri's father, the new head of the team, was tasked with conducting a full audit of expenses and income, and he soon discovered evidence of embezzlement. The money thus obtained was for a time sufficient to cover the expenses of the family. Tang Zihek, the head of the Poison King clan, was dismissed from his post, and with him, most of the elders who had embezzled the family's property. In addition to the elders, anyone who used their position for selfish purposes was removed from office. The mother of the young head of Tang Yenmen, Tang Chiha, only had a few days to do everything. You can see the hand of a strong woman, the boy thought. Thanks to the lad's mother, the internal organization of the clan was resolved. At first, Tang Enman was just chasing the opportunity to live a normal life next to his mother, but before he knew it, he suddenly had so many important things. The people Tang Yenmen could call friends were Banhui warriors who were unconditionally loyal to him. The guy's friends and dozens or hundreds of Tang family members. Tang Yenmen certainly had something to protect. In the past, even keeping his body healthy was a bit difficult for Tang Enman, and he cursed every day. Tang Yenmen understood that they had to become stronger so that no one would dare to attack them. Not the head of the Black Death Alliance, not the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord, no force would ever become a threat to the Tang clan again. Yi Solren told her master that Mak Inhu and Zhang Yunsang had been defeated at the hands of the young head of the Tang clan. They were both members of the main school and illustrious warriors of their alliance, the girl stated. The head of the Black Death Alliance thought that they should destroy the Tang clan before they accumulated strength and regained their former power. But attacking those two is like going against your master, Yi Solren stated. The Lord was sure that he had already warned the boys to leave the Tang clan alone, for he had his own plans for this clan. Those two disobeyed the Lord's orders and attacked the Tang clan, for which they paid with their lives. Those two were lucky to die at the hands of the young head, for if they had returned back, Yu Giljun would have left no ashes behind. Yu Giljun was quite curious that the young head of the Tang clan, Tang Enman, had managed to destroy them. He clearly wasn't as simple as everyone thought. Yu Giljun ordered a message to be sent to the Tang clan, for he was inviting the young clan head to the upcoming Sichuan Provincial Council. Meanwhile, Tang Enman was thanking his mother for arranging things so well in the Hidden Weapons and Poisons Hall. Tan Chi admitted to her son that she was a little nervous stepping into the position after such a long break and doesn't know if she will do well. Tang Yenmen answered best and stated that she was suppressing her powers again, just like last time. Tang Chi observed that her son was quick to notice everything since he had been through this before. The suppression was still flawless, but Tang Chiha had already reached Huajian, and there was no longer any need to hide her power. The woman explained that it wasn't just about hiding powers. What she was doing was their family's secret technique, Ven sealing, and she hoped her son would learn it too and be able to hide his powers. The story of the founder of this technique and the ancestors of the Tang family were the ones Tang Chiha felt she had to tell her son about. A plague broke out in a village in Sichuan. The year was not a good harvest and people were dying of exhaustion. Dozens of bodies were hastily cremated without proper burial for fear of spreading the disease. But it was only a matter of time. All the villagers were already infected, and all they had to do was wait for their inevitable demise. All but one single 10-year-old boy were untouched by the disease. Everyone wondered why only this child remained healthy, but no one could think rationally anymore. In the eyes of the unfortunate infected, this baby was a sign of death, the embodiment of evil spirits bringing disease. It was unclear where the child, who had been expelled from the village, could go, so he took shelter from the rain in a cave. The boy subsisted on sacrificial food brought to the altar by the villagers trying to ward off evil, which is how he survived day by day. One day full of loneliness, then another, and on the third day none of the inhabitants came to perform the ritual. So the boy was left all alone, and then he wondered why he was the only one left unharmed. But the answer found him on its own. Mysterious men had come for the boy. They were the most dangerous group of killers in the world. It's the Poison Moon Shadowgate cult. They've been kidnapping children all over the world and raising them to be killers. Children were fed poisons to keep them from escaping and periodically exposed to mind-numbing drugs. The boy grew up to become a killer, but one day he witnesses the death of one of his fellow students before he could get the antidote. And then the boy realized that it was the Shadowgate sect that had brought the plague upon his village, and not he himself. From then on, the boy began to train hard to become stronger. He took on the most dangerous missions and carried them out without the slightest hesitation. Gradually, the boy reached such a level of strength that he became capable of destroying even an absolute master. Due to his achievements, the reputation of the Poison Moon Shadowgate sect skyrocketed, and his master decided to bestow upon the boy the title of one of the 5 greatest assassins, and also declared that the lad could wish for anything he wanted and he would fulfill it. But the gentleman was surprised to hear that the boy needed absolutely nothing. The boy had already reached the highest level. Secrets he had comprehended while fighting absolute masters, and his own techniques he had developed while studying martial arts in the sect. Incarnated by the first reign of heavenly colors, this was how the Poison Moon Shadowgate sect fell overnight. Later the descendants of this boy settled in Sichuan, and so the Tang family came into existence, who still remember him by the nickname Muanjek. While Mom was telling Tang Yenmen the story, somehow the boy managed to doze off. Tang Yenmen didn't know about this story, but what did it have to do with sealing one? Tang Chiha explained that there were quite a few masters in that sect who had reached Wagon, including the 5 greatest assassins and the sect head himself. Not every master is able to resist a technique that doesn't care about the number of opponents, the guy stated. The boy was partly right, except that the Reign of Heavenly Colors was not a hidden weapon technique, but an energy control art. Tang Yenmen finally realized that this technique did not control weapons, but energy. That's exactly what Tang Chiha stated. Wajen battles are a clash of energy. When the opponent attacks with energy, you can only repel the attack with energy. Normal concealed weapon techniques would be powerless against the energy of the protective armor of a master in Wajen. Tang Yenmen began to understand everything. Protective armor would ward off any hidden weapon, no matter how strong, from its master. Energy opposes energy, but the hundreds of hidden weapons absorbed by it form a storm. Even the protective armor would be difficult to deal with hundreds, as this is truly a perfect technique made for battles with Wajen masters. It's probably much stronger than Mad Dance, Spinning Lines, and other Tang Yenmen techniques. But wouldn't even the most learned Wajen master have a hard time maintaining that level of strength? Tang Yenmen's mom noticed that the boy was already starting to wonder how it was possible to possibly hold such energy, and stated that sealing one was the answer. The basic principles of one sealing were as follows. The internal energy flowing through the meridians of the body should be concentrated in one of the 12 meridians. After that, using true energy, block the flow of internal energy, seal the meridians. Thus one's inner energy does not flow, but is restrained by the surrounding true energy. This method helps to deceive Wajen masters, through whose eyes one can see the flow of internal energy. Of course, sealed power cannot be used, so you become weaker in the moment, but by gaining experience and learning the secrets of skill, it is easy to accumulate strength again. This process should be repeated 12 times to seal the energy in all 12 meridians. And that is when a new layer of protection energy of Yenling's protective armor is created from the intertwining of the true energy storing the inner energy. It strengthens the body's defenses and is comparable in strength to dragon scales, which is why it was so named. First Warenho, now Yenling, they all talk like they've seen a dragon, Tang Yenmen thought. But sealing one wasn't just for protection. After all, when one released the sealed energy of the 12 meridians, the powers would increase tenfold. Well, energy beyond the body's capabilities would naturally dissipate. So, the reign of 10,000 heavenly colors can only be used when you break the seal, thought Tang Yenmen. Tang Chiha explained that there were other important commandments passed down to the family, but they had been lost in the attack of the heaven-shining demons. And the two elders who passed them on orally suddenly passed away. Mom explained to Tang Yenmen that he and only he would be able to master the rain of heavenly colors completely. Because he is the son of the great poison phoenix, aka Tang Chiha, and she is insanely proud of her son. There was nothing that Poison Phoenix's son couldn't do, so Tang Enman must live up to his mother's expectations to make her even more proud. This was how Tang Enman learned the one sealing technique from his mother. The best way to recover energy faster after sealing proved to be to absorb poisons. What was poison to others turned out to be a miraculous elixir to Tang Yenmen, and going through this recovery process was something the guy didn't have to go through. Tang Enman wanted to ask his friend Tang Yijong to make him many poisons, but suddenly he was told that his girlfriend was standing on the doorstep, asking very insistently to let her in, even though it was said that the young head was busy. Tan Meyer ran into the room saying that if the guy didn't help her now, her sister might die. Tang Yenmen was well frightened and asked the girl if maybe she should go to the healers instead of him. But the girl stated that her sister had already been examined several times, and herbs and medical methods would definitely not help her. Tang Meyer's older sister Tang Meyer had a serious 9 meridians affliction. Since ancient times, in the neighborhood of the Blazing Sun Palace, there was a unique martial arts sect that was no stranger to the meridian affliction of the North Sea Ice Palace. As the name implies, the Ice Palace warrior utilized the ice element in her arts, which was the greatest wealth and blessing for people with strong yin energy. But those who didn't practice ice arts suffered from a deadly disease. Tang Enman thought that the girls were their descendants, but the girl and her sister were told that they were descendants of their descendants. Many years ago, descendants of the Ice Palace clan settled in Sichuan and intermarried with the Tang family, the most powerful family in Sichuan at the time. Learning ice arts could cure an ailment, but in Sichuan Tang practiced hidden weapons, so it was impossible to find ice art masters or information about it there. Knowledge passed down from distant ancestors has long been lost. This hereditary disease appears every few decades. Tang Enman and Tang Meyer had already reached the girl's house where her sick sister was lying. Once inside, Tang Meyer noticed that her sister looked bad. Her condition had worsened while she was out. Tang Meyer began to cry very bitterly and begged her sister to open her eyes. Tang Enman was surprised. It was so cold in the room that one could freeze, and it was worse than he thought. Tang Enman ordered Tang Mira to listen to him carefully. He couldn't promise that her sister would survive. Sister Meyer resisted the cold with inner energy, but her strength was already running low. In that state, she blocked her own consciousness and channeled all her energy into the meridians. Tang Meyer couldn't believe her ears, but even more she couldn't believe that there was no way to save her. But it wasn't that there was no way at all. The guy could artificially release the cold from her body, but Tang Meyer's sister might not be able to endure the process, or the guy himself might have frozen to death. Tang Enman wanted to help very badly, but he couldn't put his friends' family members' lives on the line himself, so he asked her to choose. Tang Meyer had to decide. She could certainly try to find another way or trust Tang Enman and his method. Tang Meyer went all the way because there was no other choice, and can't give up without trying. It was dangerous enough for Tang Enman too, but the girl still asked the guy to save her sister. Tang Enman answered the girl without further question that he would definitely do it, but he felt somehow too awkward. Tang Yenmen explained that clothes would interfere with the extraction of yin energy, so there was no other way. It was better to endure than to die. Without wasting too much time and energy, Tang Enman decided to hurry up and start absorbing glabella, philtrum, heart, lungs, both arms, both legs and lower abdomen. One by one Tang Yenmen planned to extract the cold from the meridians. With glabella already done, Tang Yenmen decided to go a little lower. Tang Yenmen was terribly embarrassed, but he had already started the whole process and there was no stopping now. The resistance to the cold was rapidly increasing, but Tang Enman didn't want to give up so easily. Tang Yenmen was able to extract yin energy from the 6 meridians in his upper body, but the guy's body was having a harder time resisting the growing cold. If it continued like this, Tang Enman could freeze to death quite before he could finish. Tang Enman realized that things would have been much simpler if this girl's body contained poison. Well, come to think of it, Yizhong's grandfather from the Medicine King clan had once mentioned the essence of poisons. Drugs and poisons are essentially the same thing. Even a drug becomes poisonous if its concentration exceeds what the body can tolerate. Even the yang energy, the focus of life force, the poison of the thousand fire carp turns poisonous when the body cannot withstand it. So that extreme cold, freezing to the bone, could be considered cold poison, the lad thought. Since Tang Enman had already extracted quite a bit of coldness, he would actively resist. But as long as the guy views the cold as poison, it poses no threat to him. Tang Yenmen was intent on devouring him, and the coldness really began to leave his body. Waking up and seeing some guy in front of her, Sister Tang Meyer was terrified and started screaming at the top of her voice. Tan Meyer, seeing that her sister had finally opened her eyes, jumped on top of her and started hugging her. Tan Meyer explained to her sister how everything happened, and she realized that the guy standing in front of them was her savior. Tan Meyer, seeing that the guy was still touching her sister, decided to clarify if he was going to do it for a long time, but her sister reassured the girl and said that he was concentrating and coming to his senses. It was very reminiscent of elixirs of energy. There was so much of it that the body could barely handle it. If left as it was, it would naturally dissipate. But if the guy absorbed as much cold as he could, he would have a chance to try to reopen the blocked meridians. One meridian was completely filled with energy, and Tang Yenmen wondered how many meridians would be filled if all the cold was absorbed. Tang Yenmen had already filled 4 meridians, and it was already staggering. The guy now had almost 4 times more energy. Of course, that had to lower the instant force level, but what is, the guy thought. Coming to his senses, the guy saw that the girl was awake and realized that his hand was still on her. The guy got embarrassed and abruptly removed his hand. The girl explained to him that there was no need to worry. I had already told her everything. Tang Yenmen explained that he shouldn't, because taking care of the family was the young head's main duty. Suddenly, a man entered the room. The man turned out to be the girl's father, and when he saw the condition his daughters were in, he became angry and lashed out at the guy. The girl somehow managed to subdue her father and tell him who this guy really was and what he was doing there. After hearing this, the man knelt down and began to apologize to the young head, because he didn't know that he had saved his daughter. He didn't even know that the guy was a young head. He couldn't tell you how much he was grateful to the young head for not having his daughters lay into magic before he did. The man was a merchant and settled in Sichuan when he fell in love with a woman from the Tang clan. His wife also suffered from the disease and died of it. The man said that he had spent all the money trying to find medicine for his daughters, but it was all for nothing. So he was very happy that the young head favored him. The man wanted to do anything for the young head that he didn't order, but the man replied that he just did what he had to do. By the way, it's been quiet among the merchants lately, the boy said, and the man replied that ever since the Tang clan's forces were decimated and the Black Death Alliance took over, many people haven't left the city. Tang Yenmen listened to the man, understood everything, and stated that they would discuss it a little later, deflecting. But suddenly the girls appeared. Sister Meyer thanked the young head once again for saving her life. She and her family would never forget it. Tang Meyer shouted after Tang Enman that she would definitely repay him, but suddenly, the young head froze. The girl's sister realized that the young head looked confused, and perhaps something had gone wrong during her treatment. But that wasn't what Tan Meyer suspected. It seemed to her that her sister wished the guy would stay with them longer. But the girl's sister said it wasn't like that at all. Where did she get that from? I thought to myself. I wonder if it's that obvious. Tan Meyer calmed her sister down. After all, it was all a natural reaction. Anyone in her shoes would feel the same way. Tang Meyer also explained to her sister that Tang Enman had never seen anyone prettier than her, and although he didn't say anything, his face when he looked at her spoke for itself. Tang Meyer thought that her sister also liked Tang Enman, and she was right. After all, he had already envisioned a family, children and even grandchildren with her. Tang Yenmen would never have thought that someone could cause him such excitement in his life. Isn't this what ordinary life felt like? The boy hoped there would be another chance to visit her again. Tang Yenmen also brought up the girl's father's one problem, and once again, the Black Death Alliance and its leader Yu Giljun popped up there. Even though the alliance might not be directly responsible for the fall of the Tang clan like the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord, but after his subordinates invaded the competition territory, his perennial presence was beginning to strain. Besides, as long as Sichuan is gone, the authorities will definitely run into them one day. At the Black Death Alliance residence of the girls sitting in the hall, Simhwa was told that the power in the Tang clan had been spiraling out of control recently. But then the girl remembered the words of her master, who had said that they had not had a conversation about it. There was no need to interfere. The Alliance head's order was absolute, said EP Injin, the head of the Rising Phoenix sect. He also stated that they had better behave submissively until their lord's anger subsided. After all, it had become known that the young head and his regent had reached Huajian, and their lord was still just going to watch and wait. Yi Solren was already angry that she couldn't avenge Mak Inhu and Zhang Yunsong. Well, however, with the girl herself bound hand and foot, she decided to come up with some sort of plan. Yi Solren apologized to the head mentally, for she couldn't just let it all go, for even when she closes her eyes, she can hear Maka Inhu screaming for a place. And until Yi Solren wipes the Tang clan and Tang Enman off the face of the earth, her anger will not subside. The girl hoped that the young head would be looking forward to seeing her, for she would definitely prepare a scene for him. Meanwhile, Tang Chonil and Tang Jihek, the former clan head of the Poison King clan, were deliberating over what to do next, for ever since Poison Phoenix became the regent, their position had been jeopardized. The second elder, Tan Menshin, did not know what to say to them, for they had brought it all on themselves, and blamed it all on Munchang. For now everything the elder had stood for his whole life would crumble because of him and his father. The damned old man himself couldn't stand up to the head of the family, Menshin thought, because in his opinion it was all because of the elder. The guy planned to heal his arm and avenge everything on the young head of Tang Yenmen. Tang Zihek said that they, like the other elders, were now finding it difficult to even maintain their own guards. The second elder understood everything perfectly well himself, so he stated that they would soon leave the clan. Meanwhile, the young head was shown the poison vault where the most dangerous toxins and the 10 poisons of the Tang family were stored. Tang Yenmen knew that it used to be under the third elder, but now, due to the negligence of the leadership, it had been taken over by the Hidden Weapons and Poisons Hall. The guy was met by guards before entering the vault, and before entering the vault they handed him something that would prevent the poison from affecting him inside. Tang Yenmen had to hold this pill in his mouth and it would filter out most of the poisons, preventing them from entering his body. Tang Enman refused. After all, how many people, including the third elder, had to pass her? The guys explained that the pearl is cleaned after each use and the young chapter has nothing to worry about. Still, Tang Yenmen said that he had no need to resort to such measures, as he could manage without it. The guards knew that the young head was immune to poisons, but it was still better to take this pearl. This guard the boy passed on. The place has been well cared for, and that's probably because 10 poisons are stored there. Now Tang Enman understood why the guard was so worried about him. After all, after entering there, an ordinary warrior without the pearl wouldn't have survived without it. Although Tang Enman's inner strength after the vein sealing technique, he could still feel the concentration of poisons in the air was drastically different. Of course, for Tang Yenmen, absorbing the poisons in that air of fervor was no worse than pure air. Tang Enman could already feel his strength recovering, but to use martial arts like before, it wasn't enough. Tang Enman realized that it would be better to absorb something equal in strength to the 10 poisons, but according to the family laws, a guy can't use 10 poisons for personal use. But if he had the recipe, the guy would have asked Tang Yizhong to prepare it for him. Suddenly, Tang Yenmen had a strange feeling as if part of the airflow was distorted. Soon, the guy realized that it was nothing but an incarnation. Is this incarnation right in the Tang family's poison vault, he thought. It didn't look like the Ziegel family's phantom dome, but the guy decided to verify this information nonetheless. Tang Yenmen noticed there were talismans labeled forbidden and sealed. It turned out not to be an incarnation of Jagal, but an incarnation of someone named Bunce. They were spellcasters. Master Tang Enman knew some spellcasters in his past life. Just as Master Tang Enman was obsessed with his sword, they were obsessed with sorcery. They sought to master the enchantments and surpass the limits of human capabilities to achieve immortality. Tang Yenmen remembers that he was once sent for training. The incarnation created by the spellcasters was instead swarming with monsters that the guy didn't even know the name of. Spellcasters tend to be selfish and only do things that interest them. But why is there a sorcerer incarnation in the Tang clan? Spellcasters are self-loving by nature, possessed by spirits and demons, forever in search of immortality. But if you attack them every day for no reason, sooner or later they will want to talk, then you can make friends with them. Tang Enman doubted that anyone in the family thought the same as his master, and there must be something in the Tang clan that caught the caster's attention. If poison seeps through even hundreds of sealing talismans, then it must be a very powerful toxin. At first, Tang Enman was going to rewrite the recipe for the 10 poisons, if it had survived of course, but the version he found was much more tempting, so he decided to find out what was in it. After walking a little further, Tang Enman realized where the 10th of the 10 poisons, thought to be lost, was hidden. But the jug was covered in talismans, and it looked eerie. Tang Enman tried to get the recipe out of the jug, but even the recoil of that power was simply astonishing, and the guy realized that this incarnation would be much harder to deal with than the others. Tang Enman decided that he just needed to cut through each layer accurately and slit the talismans on the jug at the same time. But because of the sealing of the veins, the strength was noticeably less, because normally, Tang Enman would have been able to do it with a single sweep of his arm. Tang Yenmen noticed that without the talismans, the vaporization of the poison was thicker, but still, the guy decided to see what was inside. But suddenly something that came out of the jug declared that the powers containing his talisman were gone, and how it had been a long time since he had seen white light. Tang Enman was thrown back. The guy was shocked at this speed, but realized he needed to strike before it got to him. The guy had a pretty quick reaction time, and that pleased the creature that came out of the jug. In gratitude for the guy freeing him from the seals, he threatened to destroy him without pain. But Tang Enman didn't realize that he was facing a supreme poison. It was called Jingwa Blue-Horned White Serpent Poison and claimed to be Jingwa poison. Tang Yenmen managed to stop the spread of the poison by instantly blocking the acupuncture points, but how long would the guy last? The serpent dignifiedly made it clear that if the body went on like that, he'd just slowly melt the guy's arm. But suddenly the serpent sensed a foreign energy. It turned out to be a poison absorption aura. He shifted, not at all understanding where the guy got it from. Could he be connected to Mongek? Tang Yenmen explained that this man was his ancestor, and began to absorb the poison, but the serpent asked him not to do so, for that would completely destroy him. But Tang Yenmen had no intention of stopping and wished to absorb all of the serpent's venom. But the serpent was not confused either, and facing death, he offered Tang Yenmen a deal. The serpent merely wanted to be free from the effects of the seal, and if the guy spared him, he would become his guardian spirit. The serpent merely wanted to be free from the effects of the seal, and if the guy spared him, he would become his guardian spirit. The serpent explained that Tang Yenmen would also benefit from this, because couldn't he feel his energy growing every second thanks to his poison? And it was growing much faster than usual. Tang Yenmen realized that the serpent was right. Neither the fire carp pearl nor Warenho could match its venom in strength. The serpent declared that if he became Tang Yenmen's guardian spirit, he would be able to provide him with poison whenever he wanted. But Tang Yenmen said that he wasn't interested in that at all, and he didn't need to let his enemy live, because he could always get poison. The serpent begged the lad to spare him, for he had spent hundreds of years trapped, staring at the wall. And if the guy lets him become a guardian spirit, he'll be obligated to obey whatever the guy says. But so be it, Tang Yenmen decided to trust the snake for once. But if he suddenly let him down, Tang Yenmen would swat him on the spot. Tang Enman decided to ask the serpent what he needed to do to become his guardian spirit, since he knew nothing about this art. The serpent stated that Tang Yenmen didn't need to do anything, and gave the guy a certain orb called a binding seal of spirits. The guy had to take it and the spirit of the serpent would bind with his soul, so the serpent would become his guardian. The guards noticed that the young head had been gone for a very long time, so the guys decided to go into the vault and check it out. But suddenly a light began to emanate from the vault. The boys were frightened and couldn't understand what was happening. But suddenly their young gentleman came out, who was glowing all over, and the boys wondered what it was. Unlike the usual auras of guardian spirits, this felt like a tangible outer cover. This was possible because the poisonous serpent had become Tang Yenmen's guardian, and he had managed to fill all 12 meridians. Tang Yenmen thought that this was incredible luck, but now he would have to constantly control the manifestation of strength. Such power was given to Tang Yenmen for a reason, just like Muonjek, his ancestor and past serpent master, this power was granted by fate. Snake said that it was much harder to come to an agreement with Muonjek than with Tan Yenmen. The serpent worked for him like a cursed man, and when his time came for him to die, he turned to Bansa to seal him in a jug, as he considered him too dangerous. Tang Yenmen finally understood where the incarnation of Bansa had come from. After all, his master was a high-ranked spirit. Any spellcaster would be happy to get themselves such a guardian, and Tang Yenmen's father had managed to seal it. Maybe the guy's ancestor was just like his master, Tang Yenmen thought. However, the serpent said that there was a reason why he was born like that. But suddenly a security guard swept into the room and said he had something he needed to look at. The estate in Shuchan was attacked by members of an enemy sect. The sect was called Gandong. Meanwhile, the Gandong sect had their road blocked by people from the evil sect and asked where they were coming from. The guys didn't know how the couple from the Gandong sect had gotten there, but they decided to explain to them that Shuchan was the territory of the Black Death Alliance. The master declared to Henso that he would try to apprehend them, and the latter should run wherever he could, but the latter did not wish to leave his master in trouble. There were hundreds of people. The evil sect led by Mogan Zhang Taikongmi guys wouldn't be able to handle them with their injuries. The guys assumed that if those two had made it to Chengdu, it meant that they were trying to ask the Tang clan for help. But didn't they know that the head of the alliance had taken over Shuchan and the Tang family was subordinate to him? Mogan Zhang Taichong said that if he surrendered them to his head, the latter would bestow him with the best martial techniques. The guy promised he'd deliver those two alive, so he asked them to prepare to lose a couple limbs. But suddenly, a young master appeared out of nowhere and first of all asked who the two yellow-clothed men were, to which he received the answer that they were masters from the Gandong sect. Young Master Tang Yenmen ordered his subordinates to escort the Gandong sect members, for they had come to them as guests. Tang Yenmen noticed that the yellow-clothed guy's companion was badly injured and asked them to step back. The guys from the evil clan didn't understand who that guy was to get in their way. But suddenly, one of the subordinates explained to his palace head that he was the one who had won the Tang clan's competition and survived. The head of the palace laughed at this and said, "Did that smarmy boy think he could resist?" Tang Yenmen was a little tired of listening to the nonsense that the palace head was saying and destroyed him with one wave of his hand. The guys didn't even notice how their head was destroyed, but they did notice the guy throwing needles into the sky. Tang Yenmen hurried and didn't have time to put poison on the needles, but they had the same effect as the poisonous ones, and it shocked the guy. The serpent stated. Of course, his venom seeped into the boy's needles, for there are few who can resist him. The guy couldn't believe his eyes. Tang Yenmen's skills were incredible, and it was most likely the one his master was talking about, the one who had single-handedly defeated the 300-man troops of the Dark Moon Sword sect. No one could understand what had happened. Over 100 soldiers were wiped out in an instant. The evil plan thought that the Tang family was in decline, and no one told them that they had such a monster. The company commander ordered everyone to stop panicking. After all, there was only one poor boy in front of them, and he wouldn't have the energy to use the technique more than once. The commander thought he would lead everyone in an attack and they would crush Tang Yenmen, but the guy repelled their strike. Everyone thought that the Tang clan's secret techniques had been lost after the Heavenly Radiance demons attacked. The Tang clan was still strong, and if they dealt with the Black Death Alliance as the master hoped, they would be able to deal with the demon cult. After everything that happened, the guy realized that they better not clash with Tan's family. A few days ago, the guy was telling his master how very lucky they were that there was no disagreement with the sects of the new school on the way, and Shuchan. The guy had heard that after the Tang clan's attack, Shuchan is under the rule of several warring clans, but the atmosphere there is surprisingly calm. But suddenly a young man came up and decided to ask the guys how they rested in the restaurant. The man got very close to them. Henso didn't even feel the piercing skills. But later, Henso realized that the young man who approached them was from the Yu family. The young man decided to inquire about what had brought the distinguished guests from the Gandong sect to his province. Henso explained that they had come to that remote inn to avoid clashing with the local sections. Who would have thought that was where they would run into the head of the alliance? Elder stated that they do not do any business with the Black Death Alliance. Well, does the elder think he can handle the young man since he came to them alone? The elder stated that he had lived twice as long as that young man. When fighting in Huajian, years of energy accumulation were essential. Henso had never seen his master so annoyed. Does he really want to fight right in the joint? the boy thought. The young man said that he had wiped out the Chongxiang, Ami and Chomchang sects with his own hands more than 10 years ago, and the Gandong sect had only survived because it was far away from Sichuan. The young man declared that if these two fellows needed a fight to figure things out, they should follow him, for there was a place nearby for a quick fight. The boy began to dissuade his lord from fighting, because something bad could happen, but he was not going to sit idly by after all that had been said. The master asked his subordinate not to stop him, and he would show that young man the martial arts of the Gandong sect, which he considered the best in the world. Henso explained to Tan Yenmen that this was how his master had gotten into a fight with the head of the alliance. And also Henso told the young head that after that fight was when the men who were after them came. Yu Giljun, the head of the Black Death Alliance, used the martial arts of the Gandong sect. More precisely, he changed them to suit him, although the energy he concentrated was different, but it was a demonic sword technique. Moreover, the power in Yu Giljun's hands exceeded the power of the guy's technique, and if their master hadn't used the rest of his internal energy to block the blow, Henso wouldn't be next to Tang Enman. Tang Enman realized that Daos Teho had clearly already reached Huajian, and Yu Giljun was able to comprehend that master's art in just one duel. Henso explained that he and the lord had come to the Tang clan for one purpose only. The guy had asked to join their sect in the Great Martial Arts Tournament. The Demon Heaven Cult is a regional and military grouping located in Xinjiang. At one time, that cult's power could rival that of all the sects, clans, and factions of Murim. But even now, after so many changes in the martial arts world, the old-school sects didn't dare to attack him because the entire sect was in the hands of one master. But when the master's son, Un Jonghak, appeared, the situation began to change, because with his innate talent for martial arts, the boy gathered his own followers around him. Afraid of inadvertently starting a feud that would tear the cult apart, Un Jonghyuk left home with his followers and founded his own cult Demons of Heavenly Radiance. This weakened the elite ranks of the Heaven Demon cult and gave it one last chance to eradicate it. But the guys are worried about the Black Death Alliance in the south. After all, if the alliance moves north, the guys will suffer serious losses because their elites are not in place. But with the young head Tang Yenman's unrivaled strength, he could prevent the alliance from advancing northward. Therefore, Henso asked the young head to hold off the Black Death Alliance while they dealt with the Heaven Demon cult. But without thinking for long, the young head of the family, Tan Yenmen, turned down Henso's offer. Tang Enman couldn't make such a decision by himself, and he needs to consult with the head of the family. Only then can he give the guys an answer. Henso was telling his master that he didn't expect to find the Tang clan in such good condition at all. Along the way, they observed the clan buildings, the fighting prowess of the warriors' training and the mood of the people in the clan. This was completely opposite to the rumors that the clan had been completely destroyed by the Heavenly Radiance demons. The Lord admitted that he noticed it too and thought there must be some driving force revitalizing the clan. Tan Yuri and his father came to fetch Henso and his master to escort them to the head of the Tan family. Tang Chiha explained that the young head had already told her everything that the guys were asking for their help and support in fighting the Heaven Demon cult. Tang Chiha introduced herself to the guys and explained that she was the acting regent and head of the family. Henso noticed that she was definitely in Huajian, and now it was clear to him who had restored the Tang clan's former strength. Henso explained to the lady that their sect urgently needed support as it was about eradicating hordes of demons and devils, and they were asking for their participation in the name of justice. Tan Enman told his mother that he had previously refused the gentleman. The woman decided to ask her son if he still held his opinion. Tang Yenmen said that he still held the same opinion. After all, if they don't stop this evil, all of Murim will turn to chaos. Tang Yenmen explained that he realized the threat of the Heaven Demon cult, but the Black Death Alliance and the evil sect were separate issues. Based on what Tang Yenmen learned, the alliance doesn't oppress the common people of Sichuan, they gather under their banners, but they also get rid of bandits and generally act like old-school sects. And in this situation, young head Tang Yenmen said that they had no reason to strike first. The lords asked for participation in the name of justice, but when the Black Death Alliance and the Heavenly Radiance demons attacked the Tang clan and isolated them, no one from their clan came to their aid to restore justice. Tang Yenmen was well aware that the safety of his own clan and sect should be prioritized, so he didn't blame the guys for this. But now the gentlemen are asking for help under the pretext of destroying the sects of evil, when Kunlun will come up, and the next in line will be Gandong, the young head declared. Tang Yenmen was well aware that the safety of his own clan and sect should be prioritized, so he didn't blame the guys for this. But now the gentlemen are asking for help under the pretext of destroying the evil sections. When Kunlun comes up, Handong will be next in line, said the young leader. Henso could not raise his head in shame, for the young leader was right. They clamor for justice, but they only act when their sect is threatened. The Lord said that the young head was right, and apologized that they had not taken the Tang clan situation into consideration. The Lord admitted that he had not acted prudently, and it was quite reasonable of Tan Yenmen to refuse them when all they talked about was sacrifice in the name of justice. The gentleman said that they would pay handsomely for their help and asked Tang Yenmen to think again, for they really needed their support. Barely hearing that the guys were willing to pay for their help, Tang Yenmen immediately agreed and asked how much they were willing to pay. Henso discussed with his master that they would pay an amount at one time that exceeded the cost of maintaining their sect for several years, but it was a small price to pay to save their sect. The Lord was confident in their strength, which is why he offered such a large sum, because the young head's fighting ability is amazing. The Lord assumed that the head of the family was equal to or even exceeded Tang Yenmen's strength. The gentleman didn't notice anything because Tang Yenmen was supported by the state of open meridians, and that Taoist was more perceptive than he seemed. Tang Yenmen mentioned to the Taoists about the good deeds of the alliance, but he didn't trust them at all, for in the first place, wasn't it true that order had been maintained even after all the major sects of Shuchan had fallen? The reason why Yu Giljun has been categorized as an evil sect is not because his cult has not joined the old school sects, but because they ignore principles such as justice and cooperation. In pursuing their interests, they are no different from a gang of thieves. The temporary order in Shuchang is maintained by Yu Giljun, and if things go wrong, they drive out the competition. They introduce spies, attack and destroy other clans to keep things the same. If Yu Giljun were to disappear one day, the fragile order would end, and Sichuan would be flooded by the evil sects that had grown under his rule. Tang Chiha realized that really this all needed to be crossed at the root, so she asked her son what he planned to do. It was quite simple. Tang Yenmen explained that all they needed to do was to prevent them from advancing northward. Tang Yenmen didn't plan to block the alliance, but wanted to destroy them from within. He planned to infiltrate the main camp of the Black Death Alliance. It has certainly taken place, but it will be very difficult to sneak in. But recently, they themselves sent an invitation to the provincial council, Tang Chihi said. Unlike past years, the current Sichuan Provincial Council had become a tournament where young masters of evil sects compete, and Tang Yenmen decided to go to the council to ascertain their true nature. If, as Tang Yenmen assumed, they didn't abandon their evil intentions, he would destroy them all. Meanwhile, Ziegel Chongshir had instructed Yenin that when she got to the Tang clan, to never do anything that might hurt the young head, and to remember that the fate of their entire family depended on her alone. If the young head is really such an extraordinary person, Ziegel Yenin threatened to defeat him no matter what it cost her. After a while, Tang Yizhong brought Mr. Teho some food and medicine and asked how he was feeling. Teho stated that Tang Yizhong's grandfather's decoction had been very effective, so he was recovering quickly. It was the first time Teho had ever seen a decoction that used not only medicinal but also poisonous plants, and he was even afraid to drink it at night. But after drinking that potion a few times, Teho realized that he had been afraid for very little reason, for his wounds were visibly recovering from it. Even the head of the medicine temple had personally prepared the potion, saying that the recovery was going faster than he expected, and the man would soon be completely recovered. Henso decided to ask Tang Yizhong what was making so much noise outside and what was going on. Tang Yizhong, without thinking for long, replied that it looked like the Ziegel family was returning to their clan. Their clan has had a close relationship with the Ziegel family for many years, and they helped organize the competition as well. And now the Tang clan has decided to create a defensive formation around their estate, the guy said. Henso had heard of these families introducing friendship, but what establishing protective information was like was the first time he had heard of it. The guy is not strong in matters of battle formations, but from what he understood, it requires a lot of resources. Is this really how the clan covers its expenses and provides materials? Stated Mr. Teho. As far as Yizhong knew, everything was handled by Jie Gao, and as far as he was told, the young head of the Jagal family had expressed her full cooperation. Lastly, Ziegel Chongshir decided to ask his niece if she was sure she could handle the task. She replied that he had nothing to worry about. The girl knows her business, and no man can resist her charms. 10 years ago, the demons of the heavenly radiance attacked Ziegel, wanting to get Changsha's sister. But his sister's very donation saved their family from total destruction. She couldn't handle the humiliation of becoming a night toy and took her own life. Ziegel Chongshir vowed that he would never allow their family to experience such a tragedy again. And if his niece can get close to the young head, she will ensure that their lineage will continue through Thane. The head of the Tang family was eternally grateful to the Ziegel family for agreeing to set up a fortification around their estate. The Ziegel family greeted Madame Tang and apologized, for they didn't know that Madame had already stepped in as the head of the family. Mistress asked them not to apologize, for when she took office, those were away and could not have known it in any way. The Ziegel family must have been tired from the road, and Madame suggested that they rest before getting to work. Chongshir introduced the new mistress to his niece and explained that he had brought her there to strengthen the bonds between everyone. The girl met and heartily congratulated the new mistress on her assumption of office. At that moment the mistress thought the girl was a very polite lady, and she thanked her. Mistress stated that she too had many suitors when she was young and looked at the girl as if she were in her youth. But the girl realized that she needed to win the favor not only of the young head himself, but also of his mother, for it was her future mother-in-law. The girl declared that she would only be glad of it, for at home her brother had not shown her the slightest affection. The girl wondered how the young head would react, but when she turned her head, she saw that the young head was just sleeping as if nothing had happened. The girl did not understand how one could be indifferent to the sorrow of such a beauty, for at home she was always surrounded by the attention of men. But in Tang Yenman's mind, there was only one beauty he thought about day and night. It was his sister Tang Meyer. The girl swore to herself that she would make the young head pay attention to her no matter what it cost her. In the center of Shuchan in the Black Death Alliance territory, news of the provincial council was already spreading. It was said that the young clan head of the Tang clan would also be participating, but considering everything he had done, the other clans were unlikely to let him get away with it. Shimwa's squad was discussing the budget needed to prepare the provincial council and the list of clans and families participating in the tournament. Commander Sangmanil said that he's done organizing Shimwa's squad for now. Actually, this year's organization was supposed to be the Changjin unit. Solran stated that they had to take everything on, because they are doing what they have to as subordinates to the head of the alliance. Suddenly, a girl walked into the hall and said that she also wanted to attend the provincial council, all because she had heard that the young head of the Tang clan would also be coming to the council. They say he is so handsome that all the women he has met suffer from a loving longing for him. The girl declared that if it all turned out to be a lie, she would pretend she knew nothing, but if she was right, threatened to marry him. Meanwhile, Tang Meyer, brushing her sister's hair, focused on how beautiful it was despite the fact that she had been sick for a very long time. Tang Meyer reminded her sister that Tang Enman kept an eye on her, but what was her secret, the girl thought. Tang Meyer dared to ask her sister if she liked the young head, for his name alone made her catch her breath. Later, the girl noticed that her sister is worried, because she knows that Tang Enman will be away for a while she is participating in the provincial competition. The Xiuchang Provincial Council is a meeting of sects and renegades, and isn't it too dangerous for him to go there? What if among the council members, Tang Enman meets some girl and falls in love with her? Said Mira and asked her sister how she would react to that. Sister Meyer explained to her that there was no way she would want that to happen. Tan Meyer realized the whole point of what was happening and told her sister that they were going to the provincial council as well. But the girl was worried that with their presence, they would only hinder the young head of Tang Yenmen. Tan Meyer calmed her sister down, saying that she shouldn't worry about it, and dragged her along. Meanwhile, the young head, while talking to Yenin, learned that she only wants to go to the council for the sake of battles. The girl explained to the guy that she had heard that this provincial council is where powerful people compete for power and money in Shuchan, and she, as a girl, was very curious to see how that happens. Tang Enman agreed to take the girl with him, for he was informed that he could bring one bodyguard and one servant with him to the council. Suddenly, the door to the room opened and Tang Enman had a premonition that someone was coming, and it turned out to be her. Tang Meyer and her sister walked into the room and immediately clung to Ziegel Yenin, for no one understood what was going on. Tan Meyer asked the young head to ignore the girl sitting with him and that he should take her and her sister with him. Tang Enman, without thinking for long, declared that the girls were going with him, Meyer would be a servant, and Enan would accompany him in battle. Jenin didn't understand at all who these girls were and why they were allowing themselves to interact with the young head like this. Yenin, seeing Tang Meyer's sister, couldn't understand what was wrong with her face, but she was sure that she was completely unsuitable for the young head. Yenin realized that if that girl went with young head Tang Yenmen, her entire plan would fall apart. But after a while, the young head said that Meyer could go with him as a servant if he wanted, but a bodyguard was not allowed, for the place was already taken. But Meyer stated to the young head that if her sister didn't go, she had no desire to go either. Young head Tang Yenmen said that there was nothing he could do and he would have to choose someone else. Meyer's sister declared that she really wasn't fit for it and suggested that she should go alone, for if the young head was unwilling, there was no need to insist. Tan Meyer got very angry with Tan Enman and suggested that he come out to talk to her. The girl stated that Tang Yenmen is certainly an amazing person, judicious and decisive in martial arts, and his skills are top-notch. But why is he so stupid? Doesn't he see the way her sister looks at him? She thought he had a crush on her, too. Tan Meyer confesses that she's arranging things in the best way possible, and Tan Yongmen rejects her. Tang Yenmen explained to the girl that it was deadly dangerous. He himself did not know what would happen when he encountered the evil sect masters. And what if her sister went with them and got into danger they didn't foresee? Plus, instead of holding the council on Alliance territory, we might have to meet head-on. Meyer was overly weak after her illness and it would be hard for her there. Tang Meyer understood perfectly what young head Tang Enman was trying to convey, and stated that he was indeed right, and there was nothing that could be done about it. After saying all that, Tang Meyer also added that she would still go with Tang Enman. After what was going on, Tang Enman decided to check on the formation installation. Tang Enman was told that the formation installation was almost complete. All that was left was to set everything up, and it would be ready the other day. Tang Yenmen decided to take a look at it all with his own eyes. The guy was told that the formation covered 3 key points of the clan: the main hall, the library, and the administration. Tang Yenmen was confident that the guys would do well and asked them to keep it up. All the work done was beyond the young chapter's expectations, and it should be enough to protect the house if it were attacked in the chapter's absence. Tang Yunmen summoned the 4th elder Tang Jiren to talk to him. But he didn't expect it, because the young leader rarely called him to talk to him. It is said that the 4th elder reached his position because of his mastery of the sword. Tang Yenmen said that he was also a bit of a swordsman, so he would like to talk to him. The 4th elder had seen the young head handle a sword, and his skill level was definitely not something he could compare to, of course. Of course, that didn't mean that the young head would teach the elder. From then on he would obey his orders unquestioningly. Henso and his master decided to depart and thanked the young head for his hospitality. Also, on behalf of the Handong clan, they would like to thank them for joining their cause. The head said that thanks to the guy, he was able to fully heal from his internal injuries, and if the Tang clan needed help, they were always ready to come to the rescue. The lady thanked the boys for the warm words of their elders and the combat troops for giving aid to their enemies. The master stated that he would send the lady a payment as soon as they returned to their home area. The mistress stated that they return thanks doubly, and as their family charter states, they value loyalty above all else. The lady stated that since they had not decided to help, they would fight shoulder to shoulder with their allies, sharing their fate. Ijong replenished the poison for Tang Enman, but he wondered why he was always taking the same poison. Tang Yenmen replied that he was already used to this poison, and what could be better than this, and left after saying goodbye. To Snake, it seemed impossible for a guy's age to achieve such skill. After all, he had the level of an experienced warrior, as if he had been handling a sword for decades. Of course, the kid would still be far from Yuanjek, but the technique he showed to the 4th elder was superior to many of the great masters the serpent had met. But if there's a head of the alliance in the world who supposedly only needs one look to comprehend someone else's martial art, then why not? Stated the guy. On their way out, the guys met Zhang Gil, who would accompany them to the capital and get them safely to the capital. It didn't take long for the young chapter's mother to approach the boys and state that she would support her son in any endeavor, but hoped he wouldn't overdo it and risk himself. The boys had safely reached the district of Shouchang province and were already walking around there. Plunging into the bowels of the province, the guys did not expect that it would be decorated as if there was some kind of holiday, because this has never happened before. Tan Meyer stated that her father was a merchant and they had been to that province together a couple of times. Shouchang was once a major place of active trade, but now the dark factions had taken over Shouchang, and its size had shrunk considerably. The Tang clan will grow, so bringing in a trade guild will provide them with excellent funding. After all, you can't just rely on the elders' money and profits from weaponry forever. Tang Enman turned to Tang Mira and said that when it was over, he would be waiting for them with his father. The young head said he would help the family and Tan Mira's father get back into the trade. After a while the boys got to some man and announced that they needed swords. The man greeted the boys and stated that they had the swords stored inside and offered to come see. He didn't mean to brag, but he had the best merchandise in all of Sando. Tang Enman looked at his blade, and Meyer decided to ask why he needed it. Miri asked him why he wanted it, and he said that it would be better to have something like it on him. However, his skill was not something he boasted about in vain. The blades were indeed excellent, the power contained within them was simply amazing. The man decided to ask the young head if he knew about swords. He replied that of course he did. The swords were certainly no frills, but the chi in them was sharp, meaning the swordsman was a master of his craft, and the tempering was done carefully and precisely. Tan Yenmen stated that whatever he looked at was of excellent quality, so he would take any. The man asked the guys to wait a bit and not to go anywhere, and left for something. The man stated that he hadn't met a swordsman in a long time and hadn't had a chance to show him, but he had. The man showed the boys a sword. The sword was a masterpiece of their forge, known as the Demon Fighter. Even though Yenin had never wielded a sword, but even she could feel how big that sword was. The man explained that this sword was started by his mentor, but he passed away due to illness, and afterwards he continued his work and finished the sword. Tang Enman was certain that the sword was worthy of being called a great sword, and that was absolutely true, for it was comparable to the sword that the guy had used in his past life. Tang Enman said to the man, "It's a great sword, but I don't need it." "But has it not lived up to your expectations?" the man asked. Tang Yenmen replied that it was quite the opposite. The man had created a great sword that he could be confident in, but that was why the guy thought it was too cool for him. Such a great sword will only draw unnecessary attention to the guy, so it is better to wear an ordinary sword. Regardless, Tang Yenmen told the man that he would take the sword he had chosen earlier. But suddenly, the young heir of the Hangyang sect, Yen Xiaochong, who had previously ordered the man to deliver him the best sword, showed up, but it seems the man decided to trick him by hiding the sword. Tang Yenmen noticed with his naked eye that that man's entourage had a rather strange aura. Snake at first thought he was imagining it, but no, it was demonic energy, and he had seen such a thing a couple times from Muanjek. Tang Yenmen had only heard of demonic energy, but this was the first time he had seen it in person. But what did the people of the demonic sect forget in Shuchan, he thought. The man approached the young head of Tang Yenmen and asked him to move away, threatening to destroy the forge. But if the boy didn't move, he would destroy it first. Tang Yenmen said that there was no need to compensate for boorishness and lack of intelligence, because with a man's level, it didn't matter how good the sword was, he wouldn't be able to handle it anyway, and asked him to come back in 12. Suddenly, that man's entourage started shouting that someone dared to raise a hand against the grandson of Nam Jin Song himself, the head of the Black Death Alliance's Henyan sect. But Tang Yenmen said that it didn't matter to him who he was or what his entourage had to do with the demonic sect. Out of nowhere, some guys appeared and started asking Un Xiaochong who he was to insult their sect. The chief of them declared that the young heir's safety was their responsibility and ordered the others to dispose of the trash. The team leader was surprised, as he thought their cover was impeccable, and decided to ask the young leader how he had spotted them. Tang Yenmen replied to the man that he had seen them from several kilometers away, and it was hard not to notice them. The young head watched as the boys wiped out all the humans, but still felt no threat. From Tang Yenmen's point of view, these guys were no different from the ones they had interrupted. The man didn't understand how Tang Yenmen could lead the young heir out the door and attacked him to teach him a lesson, but something went wrong and Tang Yenmen stopped his strike. With just one swing, Tang Enman already felt that this sword was a true masterpiece. The weight distribution between the hilt and the blade is nearly perfect, and the blade is so sharp that there is not a drop of blood on it. Tang Yenmen explained to the blacksmith that his mentor had created a true masterpiece, and he himself was worthy of continuing his work. The blacksmith remembered the words of his mentor. He said that every valuable artifact is destined to find its true owner, and this sword too would one day find its master. The mentor asked the blacksmith to only give this sword to someone who could truly realize its value. The blacksmith rejoiced, for it seemed that he had found the person who was the true master of the demon fighter. Tang Yenmen decided to ask the others who else wanted to try their luck, and asked them to attack him all at once. Without thinking for a long time, they attacked the guy. In just a matter of seconds, Tang Yenmen had annihilated everyone who tried to attack him. The girls, meanwhile, were already tired of being surprised by the actions of their head Tang Yenmen. Meanwhile, the second son-in-law of Nam Jinsung, the head of the Hangyang sect of the Black Death Alliance, Run Wujun, was happy that everything was going smoothly and the people from the alliance didn't even realize that he was from the heaven-shining demon cult. His son, Yen Xiaochong, had inherited the Yen family's natural talent for martial arts, and although Xiaochong was still a child, there was no one among his peers who could stand up to him. If the man could make him showcase his talents at the provincial level and get into the main ranks of the Black Death Alliance, it would be the first step to weakening their power. By the time they realize what happened, the devil cult will have already reached Shuchan. But suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by Cheon Wolde of the Heavenly Moon Squad, Soshang's bodyguards. The man explained to his master that he was attacked by an armed criminal wearing a bamboo hat. Meanwhile, Tan Meyer decided to ask Tan Yenmen if he was sure everything was okay, because one of the criminals had escaped and might return with reinforcements. Tang Yenmen explained to the girl that he had intentionally let that person leave. The man they're holding hostage doesn't even realize he's connected to a devil cult, and someone must have hired those guys to guard him. The man explained to the young chapter that he had nothing to do with the devil cult and didn't even know who they were. Tang Yenmen told him that he would soon know everything and would ask those who came after him himself. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. When they opened the door, they saw a crowd of soldiers who claimed to know that the young master was being held hostage. They suggested that the guys let the hostage go and surrender, and maybe then they would spare them. Tang Yenmen walked out to the crowd without any fear and asked them what they could do to him. Nam Jinsung got really angry that the guy dared to talk to him like that. After all, he doesn't even know who they are. Tang Yenmen stated that he knew everything perfectly well. The devil cult was in front of him, for he could even feel the demonic energy emanating from them from a distance. The devil cult hid their abilities and probably came to Shuchan to set up something evil. Nam Jinsu couldn't believe that the guy had recognized the hidden demonic energy and remained unharmed, even though the bodyguard squad should have destroyed him. The man realized that the guy in front of him was very dangerous, and couldn't be allowed to stay alive. The Heavenly Moon Squad had been ordered to use their reverse blood magic technique. The reverse blood magic technique was used by the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord during his attack on the Tang clan. Tang Yongmen decided to ask the Yen clan about their relationship with Yen Zhonghek. The guy also stated that he had nothing against them, but their clan destroyed his clan. The head wondered which of all the destroyed clans was the guy's clan. The Jagal family or the Mon family. After thinking hard, he realized that it was most likely the Tang. Tang Meyer was already ready to tear the ill-wishers apart completely, but Yen held her back, for she knew that if they stuck their heads in there, they would definitely be destroyed. The Heavenly Moon Squad was ordered to immediately eliminate the young head of Tang Yenmen. Tang Yenmen decided to go on a rampage and began destroying everyone in sight. The head couldn't believe his eyes. The guy had destroyed 70 warriors with their reverse blood magic. Even a master who had reached Huajian was not capable of such a thing. The man was reminded of the times when he was in the cult and watched the rite of adulthood of the young head of the Heaven Demon cult, which was conducted by Gun Sante's left hand and Helen Junsum's right hand. The head realized that the guy standing in front of him was emitting the same kind of energy he had felt from Zhonghek when he had defeated two of the strongest Henyang warriors while at the peak of his strength. The head resigned himself to the fact that they definitely couldn't win the battle they had started and asked the guy to spare them, because the only thing he was thinking about at that moment was to save Soshang. The head said that he didn't know what had happened between the Heavenly Radiance Demon Lord and the boy, but his son, unlike him, didn't know about his involvement in the story and was living an ordinary life. But is destroying a blacksmith just for refusing to give him a good sword a normal life for a devil cult? Clarified the guy. Tang Yenmen didn't hesitate to take his son's life, because surely the relatives of those who were destroyed by their people didn't feel good either. Tang Yenmen explained that he gave no mercy to anyone with any connection to the Heavenly Radiance demon cult, and destroyed him himself as well. The blacksmith decided to give the sword away for nothing, for if they hadn't been around he wouldn't have been standing there. As the blacksmith's mentor wished, the sword had found a worthy owner, and he asked to receive it and honor his mentor. Tang Yenmen decided not to refuse such gifts, and if the blacksmith insisted, he would treat him well. But this sword would attract too much attention, so the guy asked for some simple necessities. Tang Yenmen caught the attention of the people around him because his guard and servant were both women, and he seemed to be a lover of the female gender. Many men didn't understand why all the women in the city reacted to Tang Yenmen like this. People had seen many masters, but they had never seen someone like Tang Yenmen, so they asked the guy to give his family background and name. The guy looked around with his head proudly raised and gave his name and origin. Young Sichuan clan head Tang Yenmen. Meanwhile, Yi Solren had already reported that the young head of Tang Yingmen had arrived at his assigned place. Let him rest for now, Yi Solren declared, for it would not be long before she would exact her revenge and destroy this man. Yi Solren remembered the first day she met Mak Inhu. He had saved the girl from a gang of thieves. The girl was the concubine of a high-ranking military official, but her life was just a toy in his hands. One day, the official died suddenly in an accident. During his lifetime, he had a passion for collecting martial arts manuals. Wanting to start a new life, the girl ran away, taking one of her books with her, but she was attacked, which is how she met Mak Inhu. They bonded fairly quickly. He was a martial arts master and began teaching the girl the basics so she could defend herself. After learning the basics, the girl still set about mastering the guide she had stolen was the Scarlet Lily Flame art. But fate was cruel, and the girl's happiness was short-lived. Her body began to dry up more and more every day, as if struck by an incurable disease. Feeling that she had little time left, she left Mak Inhu, for she did not want him to see her ugliness in her illness. As time passed, the girl learned that Mak Inhu had become the head of the Dark Moon Sword sect and was accumulating power, and she was slowly dying. The unceasing agony made the girl wish for a speedy death, but an unquenchable longing prevented her from closing her eyes for an eternity. If only she could see Mak Inhu with just one last glance. Mak Inhu brought the head of the alliance to the girl's house and said that this was the girl with outstanding talents. The head of the alliance wondered why the girl was in such a deplorable state, and Mak Inhu explained that she had begun to master the yang martial art as a woman. Her soul and energy were in conflict, and the death of her body was a natural consequence of this conflict. He replied that if the girl wanted to live, she should repeat the mantras she was learning. As if mesmerized by his words, the girl parted her lips and began to repeat the mantras. After listening to the mantras, the man created a new version of the Scarlet Lily Flame art in just half an hour. It was transformed so that a woman with her yin energy could use it too. The head then stated that if the girl attained mastery, the accumulated internal wounds would heal themselves. To prove her loyalty to the head for saving her life, the girl founded the Shimwa squad and joined the alliance. Since Mak Inhu was also in the alliance, the girl had hoped to rebuild a relationship with him, but his heart had cooled towards her much faster than she thought. The girl couldn't blame him. After all, she herself had left him first, but she didn't want to miss the newly presented opportunity. She suppressed all her feelings, cherishing the hope that one day he would understand her sincerity, but soon, news of the destruction of the Dark Moon Sword sect reached her. That day, the girl vowed to herself to destroy the young head of the Tang Yenmen clan. She wanted to hunt the guy down and finish him off at the same moment, but he was a master who had reached Huajian, and even with the girl's art, she would have a hard time destroying him. The serpent had been preventing the guy from meditating for over an hour now, and he hadn't even moved from his seat. What kind of trick is that? He thought, and he would have thought the guy was a reborn old master. Tang Yenmen realized that it was impossible to fully embody the annihilation technique with the aura of poisonous madness. Even though Tang Yenmen had slaughtered 70 people with a single swing of his blade that day, it was still an imperfect version with half the strength. In his past life, the guy used a mental technique called destructive power. Only by mastering it can the guy unlock the true potential of destruction. The destructive power weakens and exhausts the body, so ordinary people were killed on the spot by it, but only a guy and his teacher born with such talents could handle it. Of course, now that the guy had reached Wajen and his body was stronger, but if he mastered the destructive power, he could quickly recover his battle attraction from his past life. The boy wondered if he was getting too attached to his blade, but it wasn't about him at all. Albeit in an imperfect form, the guy was still able to embody annihilation even with his current technique. The reason for this imperfection is because the guy's mental technique doesn't match his level of swordsmanship, and maybe he can modify poison madness aura to better suit his sword. The boy came out of his trance only when Meyer started drawing on him. Tearing his eyes away, the young head asked her to cover the action. In fact, the girls had been waiting for the guy for quite some time, and after telling him so, he motioned for them to move out. Yen decided to see how long Meyer was going to act like she and the young head were buddies. The girls started to figure things out, but Tang Yen men quickly brought them to their senses and they still moved out.